We on?
And go.
Yo, yo, yo.
Yo. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. We got Siobhan in the building, like off top. Like we didn't even wait this time, man. How's everything going?
Man, I'm good. How you doing?
Doing great, doing great. Let me go ahead and get everything going on this other device, man. There's a lot going on in hip hop, man. I'll let everybody sit back and react to the Kendrick Lamar album. We're gonna get into that and get to some of my thoughts on that. Do I have a delay on you guys in? You guys seeing the delay for me? Let me check out my other screen just to make sure that
No.
what I'm seeing is not no delay. All right, we're good. Okay, cool. But yeah, I'll let everybody kind of talk about the Kendrick Lamar album, and we're gonna get into that in a second. But what has come down the news wire for us? Breaking news! Breaking news! Drake is taking legal action against Kendrick Lamar based on the fact that he was saying that the numbers for Not Like Us were inflated. Now, I know you have a whole lot to say about this, Siobhan. So we skipped the whole normal intro that we do here on Mic Check, and we want to just go
Yeah,
ahead and get into that. What are
we can
some of
get
your
right to
thoughts? And I'll go through and read the article in a second. But what are your initial thoughts on this? And do you think that there is some level of merit to what Drake is saying that he thinks has happened out here?
man. If this is true, right? Safe is true. It's
Mm-hmm.
still not gonna be a win for Drake. This is Drake with the banana outside. I'm dropping dimes. I don't like this shit, man. I don't like this is him. And it's funny because it's like for Drake, this furthermore proves you're not like us. This is not hip hop. You would have never seen Ja Rule doing this. You would have never, this is not hip hop, bro. This is the same system that you benefited under. And this is basically you mad because you didn't benefit off this. You know what I'm saying? You didn't win. So because you didn't win, you run and tell that. Like, this is not cool, man. This is not hip hop. And I know it's not directly suing Kendrick, it's suing UMG, but again, this seems like you're more upset because the benefit didn't go to you. You know what I'm saying? It didn't. You didn't win this. You seeing this as they chose a side. They want to go with Kendrick. They big up Kendrick, and they did whatever they did to inflate or whatever. So say if this is true, this is you being mad because you're not the golden goose anymore. And to me, that's sucker shit, man. It's like take your loss and move along, man. That's a bitch move, man. We never accept that in hip hop, and there was never a place for hip hop. And this is the same guy said cease and desist is for hoes. And then you do this. This is worse than a cease and desist, brother. This just further uh cements what is being said about you, man. And so man, if this is not like a classic Karen move, bro, I don't know what it is. We don't need Karens in hip hop, man. So go over there with that shit. Move around. That's sucker stuff, man.
Well, let me read the article for the people who, may not be privy to what's going on. Shout out to Mall 7 with the super chat. He says, how is Drake going to sue for inflated numbers when they do the same thing for him?
Exactly.
Allegedly. This is what I will say about Drake's numbers. Drake's numbers make some sort of sense because we have to understand this guy has a whole country that backs him. It's not like most rappers where you got a borough, you got a city that got your back. This man has a whole country that has his back. So some of his numbers could be very plausible based on those things. But that's another story for another day. Let me get to this article. So Rolling Stone writes, Drake claims the UMG Spotify artificially inflated Kendrick Lamar is not like us. Drake's attorney alleges the UMG conspired with Spotify, fired employees who had loyalty to Drake, and that influencers were paid to promote without disclosed payment. It says the article says Drake has accused Universal Music Group and Spotify of conspiring to inflate Kendrick Lamar's diss track about Canadian rapper Not Like Us upon release. In a Monday filing, Drake's company Frozen Moments accused UMG of having a scheme with bots and payola to boost the song, while the two artists refuting, according to filings obtained by Rolling Stone. The filing is not yet a lawsuit, but It's a pre-action disclose for information. UMG did not rely on a chance or even ordinary business practices, attorney for Drake's company wrote in a pre-accusation filing on Monday, accusing UMG and Spotify of falsely advertising, deceptive business practices, and violating the RICO Act. It instead launches a campaign to manipulate and saturate streaming services and airwaves. The filing claims the UMG conspired with and paid currently unknown parties to artificially inflate the spread of Not Like Us. The filing cited supposed claims from a whistleblower on a podcast that were paid to boost the song once it was released. Despite the accusations against Spotify, Drake has 10 million more monthly listeners on the platform than Lamar, even following the release of GNX that we're going to talk about in a second. Lamar is the 23rd most streamed artist of the platform, 10 spots behind the Canadian rapper who is number 13. I'm going to read this one more part and then we can go. It says, the whistleblower describes Spotify as the easiest platform to buy, because it doesn't like other streaming platforms. It does not, like other streaming platforms, have certain security measures when it comes to bot protection. The filings claim. The whistleblower further revealed that May 6, 2024, an individual affiliated with Interscope sent him a payment of $2,500 via digital payment platform Zelle. The petition also alleges that UMG paid Apple and have Siri purposely misdirect users to Drake's diss track, citing the Vibe article that claims that Lamar's song would play when Siri asked to play Certified Lover Boy. What are your thoughts on this? Jermaine Johnson with the Super Chat says, Drake has been hearing mustard in his sleep. Is there any validity to any of this stuff? I mean, you would have to think somebody this big and this, I don't want to say credible, but with so much to lose reputation-wise, would have some basis to go this far. I don't think we've ever seen anybody go this far. You know, this battle has been a first for a lot of things. The J. Cole thing was a first. I don't know what to say about that. And this right here is a first.
Bro, this is classic Karen stuff. We can't do this in hip hop, bro. We can't. You know, if you was the one benefiting off this wouldn't even been an issue for you. You know what I'm saying?
But,
like if
I
you're
hear
the one,
you, but what if it's true?
If it's true, it doesn't really hurt Kendrick, bro. You know what it does? It opens up a rabbit hole to hurt hip hop, period. Because I think there's others that possibly benefit off this that you're snitching on too, including yourself. Because, you know, like I got a homeboy and I'm not an Apple user. I got a MacBook here, but I don't have an iPhone. He said when Back to Back came out and that Drake shit dropped, you wake up to the phone and it's a notification that new music is there from Drake. It automatically, puts it in your mind. Oh, let me go listen to that shit first thing in the morning. Like the people benefit off this in certain ways than others. And for me, we already knew payola always existed in the industry. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Nobody's a stranger to that. So if this is gonna be the case of you just running and telling because it didn't work in your favor, that's sucker shit to me, man. Like, this is the same system that you benefit off of. This is the same system that puts you in the driver's seat and say, hey, you the golden goose. And when it looks like they chose the other guy, then you like, oh, I'm dropping dimes. I don't like that shit. Like we don't have no place for that hip hop, bro. And then, all right, let's fast forward, right? Let's say if Drake wins, right?
Right.
What does this prove? Nothing more than what we're already saying about you. You're not hip hop. You're not of this culture, bro. We don't do this. You know what I'm saying? What does this prove? You can't celebrate and put this in a line that you won against this and inflate numbers. Nah, nigga, you're a snitch now. You're a snitch. We can't celebrate that. You can't be a winner and come out on top of that. We look at you different already now because this came out. But if you was to win, come on, bro. we won't accept that.
Very, very valid points, because one thing that I never thought about when you're talking about this, you're talking about the bots and those things. And I do feel that J. Cole in that record that he put out, what was it, Port Antonio, whatever that song is. No disrespect. It slipped my mind. But he said something about bots. And so maybe it has been somewhat confirmed or whatever that there were bots on this record. But something that you brought up that I do think is interesting, what about payola? And what makes any of the bots and all of that stuff that's going on, if it is going on, alleged bots or whatnot, what makes that different than payola? And we know some of our favorite rappers, some of our favorite artists really benefited from that payola era. And, and they got a lot of success with that. Drake possibly included. And I'm just saying possibly because, I don't have the real information, but let's be real. Like you said, it's cool until it goes against you. And now you want to throw lawsuits out there. Now, I thought some of the lawsuits were about the fact that he was being called a pedophile and those things. But if we're talking about just straight streaming things, I don't know if he is putting a defamation out there because of what was said. But even with that, like you said, this is hip hop. And, Ice Cube said a lot of things about Dre and MC Ren and Yella and Easy and No Vaseline. Shit, Tupac said a lot of things about Dr. Dre and Toss It Up and all of these records. Like, nobody sued anybody for defamation, and one thing, this is what I will say, man. When Pusha T did what he did on the story of Adidon, and people were talking about, the whole 40 line and all that stuff, it was a conversation about what's going too far in diss records, and it's like, why does this always happen with this artist? And why are there always limitations to what can be done in a diss record when it comes to Drake? And like you said, that's not hip hop. And it is what it is, man. Like, I mean, that's what it comes across to me.
Karen,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's a hip hop Karen. Whenever you could throw it, but you can't take it, Paul. You could throw it out there, but you could dish it out, but you can't take it, bro. Because you're able to say whatever you say. You drop the man's wife on a song, and then you seen what happened on a story out of Don. Now, you took it too far, and what? Nah, bro. All fair in this world, right? But all bets is off. Now you want the sensitivity to go towards you when you're on the losing end. You don't see people. Do y'all not see the pattern with this guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, and this is deeper. Kendrick is being used as an example, bro. But I think he was beefing with the head of UMG anyway. I think there was something mentioned on that on the Pop Star record. So I think this just goes deeper than Kendrick. I think this is a guy that's disgruntled that somebody chose one side or more over his. I think that's allegedly the issue. So this is deeper than
more than that, though.
Yeah,
I think it's not to interrupt you, but I think it's a little bit more than that. I do believe, and I'm not going to go back on this, I do believe there was a concerted effort for everybody to go with Drake at once. Like, I think that everybody can really take all of that in and understand how everything happened. And even J. Cole kind of stepping to the side, kind of let you know that there was possibly a concerted effort for everybody to go with this guy at once. And that's outside of the artist. Like you said, it's bigger than just Kendrick and Sean or Kanye or whatever. I think that there was a backdrop for that. But at the same time, like you said, this is hip hop. This shit happens, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? There was moments where everybody went to Jay-Z. There were moments when everybody went to Nas. There were moments, and you have to just stand on that. To sit there and have to cry about it, I mean, you can't do it like that, man. And you just gotta. I mean, his numbers ain't went down. Like, what? He hadn't lost his fan base like that.
He lost the culture. He's lost the culture, and that's the issue, bro. He can't take that. He's used to being the man on top, the one that the memes is benefiting in his favor. You know what I'm saying? But you can't throw the stone and, you know what I'm saying, and hide your hands, and then you want to go run and play Karen, bro. When you was beefing with Pusha, you brought the man's wife into it, and Pusha said what he said to you, dropped it on a story out of Don. Then you want the sensitivity, or he's taking it too far. Then you got Jay Prince stepping in, saying what he's saying, want to put it to bed. Then let's fast forward. The stuff with you and Kendrick. You mentioned Kendrick's wife or fiance. I don't know if his wife was fiance, but you mentioned his lady. Then you mentioned allegations that there was an affair with this guy. Then you mentioned, oh, you put it in the air that the baby may not be his. And then when he bites back, I'm not like us, and he surgically did this to Drake. He had to, meet the grams, and he tried to backtrack and try to get steam off that. Oh, we planted that stuff. That comes out to be a big ass. We don't come on. We don't
Yeah.
know what is looking shaky right there. And then now you're, oh well, you believe in the guy. This is not even the truth and all this. Like, why do you want the favor always to be for us to feel sorry for you and you participate in the mudslinging first? People keep it music with you. You take it to those other parts, and when you get that ass tap, pause, then you want to go run and tell. That's not how hip hop works, brother. That's not how you win. That's not how it works.
Oh,
It's
we
never
got
worked
a
like that in
super
hip hop.
chat in here. Road to the super chat says Drake is a bird. Well, you know what? Let me play devil's advocate for a second, right? I will say this. Again, there were a lot of firsts that happened in this back and forth, and I think not like us to me. And back to back was a hit, but we always looked at back to back as a B side. I think that not like us is probably the biggest diss record hit of all time. Like, it's a legit hit record. We look at records like Hit 'Em Up, No Vaseline, Take Over, Ether. These weren't really the singles. Like, these were more so album songs that were notable because of this back and forth and situation. This right here is a hit record. Probably the song of the year. I mean, it is what it is. Numbers wise, hands down, it's a song of the year. And I think that when you start thinking about the content that is on a hit record like this, where a man being called a pedophile and these things like that, then it opens the door for a possible defamation suit if you don't have any proof of things like that, because those are serious things. But this is hip hop, like you said, and people say a lot of disrespectful shit on diss records, but we've never really had a diss record to be a forefront single in this way. So how does one handle that? Well, we see how Drake is handling it, right? I mean, I don't know if that makes it right or wrong. I still believe that it's a diss record. It's hip hop. And I don't. Do you think people really took the fact that he is a quote unquote pedophile seriously? Or was this more
No,
in
I
the
think people poke fun. Just, I don't think that did much damage to him as you know what the damage of him being called a pedophile is? It's equivalent to you saying to me, is this your tour or your girl's tour? It's just, it makes it on the internet. I don't know if it haven't came out that stopped any business deals. You
Yeah.
still doing things, bro. You talking about doing going on tour, doing a show in Australia the same day as the Super Bowl, bro. Like, if people have to start looking at the pattern of Drake, right? This is the first time where you see the culture being on the other side in a battle for him. He's used to being a winner, the memes going in his favor. The artist he's dissing is becoming a laughing stock. It didn't happen this time for you like that. And
He was
then,
kind of big boy Pusha T. Now, we know Pusha T did what he did, but Drake fans could look at the Pusha T situation and be like, oh, well, he was just trying to get clout off of Drake. He doesn't sell as much as Drake. He's not blah, blah, blah.
well,
You
that's
can't do
not
that.
even true. I even like that take because we know that beef was inherited from Wayne. It was Pusha and Wayne.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This was inherited from that. So this is not Pusha getting clout. And even if it was, why not? Why is it not accepted for you to go at the top guy? If you want to have that king, you have to beat the king. This is hip hop. So I even hated those takes. If you a fan, just say you a fan. Like Drake fans, you know what I'm saying? Like, just be a fan. I'll consider you a fan. But when we break down the facts of the matter, there's a pattern to this shit.
I'm
So
gonna keep
when we're
it real,
looking,
and I've always said this when people came with that take. Pusha T is not out here to get Drake fans. You know what I'm saying? Like that was never
they're
the
two
point. Where
totally
it's like, look at
different
this
fan
Drake so
bases.
I can get Drake fans. What were you saying? My bad.
Two completely different fan bases.
Exactly.
So if we're gonna talk about this, we have to talk about the pattern here, right? So let's talk about Drake's failed attempts of testing the temperature out here with music. He released what was it, 1,000 gigs, whatever gigs of music with the videos and everything. He tried to win them back. He dropped these records. He gets No Face. No Face was okay as far as a song. It didn't sound bad. I'm not a hater. It didn't sound bad.
Mm.
But like your move, every move you've made after Not Like Us has been shaky for you, bro. You threw out this music, you threw out this footage. Nobody really cares, bro. The internet wasn't riled up. Your base, they was like, yeah, they going with you. But it didn't move the way you do. So you see the culture responding to it, and your next spot is what do you think he does? Nothing that's totally hip hop. You go on a Canadian streamer platform recently, and you say things like, I'm still here in the likes, not in these words, but in these likes of, it's gonna take more than that to take me down. You need facts to take me down. And then we see the chemistry on the stream. It looks like you there's an angle you're trying to do with getting on this. Y'all don't have no chemistry. It's not the same as artists going on streaming with Kai Cenat. It looks like you're trying to make a move, bro. The accents that you've been using when you're on stage at these clubs and doing things, you're trying to give this Canadian accent. You don't talk like this. We heard how you talk. You know what I'm saying? So
Don't
I
jump
see
in there. We got a
this.
lot of people here.
Yeah, so I see this. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I get it. You don't really have the culture to go back to. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like that Canadian culture is like, from what he came from, is not hip hop. And he could be a fan. He was a fan of this. We seen a video of him with his dad, and he's rapping the Fugees and all that stuff. He was a fan. That's great. You're a fan that loved this so much you want to get into it. The biggest rapper in the world co-signed you, validated you, stamps you. You came in this game a good guy. You embraced the backpackers. You embraced being the underdog and moving up, and then you were cool until it wasn't cool no more. You know what I'm saying? You didn't like being called the dweeb, the nerd of hip hop and all that. So you grow a beard. You champagne poppy now. You popping. You making these hits now. And you're a character, and you embodied this character so much, bro, that you got too big for your bridges. And one thing I can say, everybody in hip hop is a fan in hip hop in some way, right? But he's really an outsider. He even said it himself. He looked at himself as an outsider. This is documented. You can go find this on YouTube. This is not edited. This is a real interview. Let's recap. Another interview with Lil Wayne saying, I like Drake because he doesn't try to do the type of music or say the type of things we do. Just be that. You didn't come from that. That's why we like you. That's why I tried. That was his advice to Drake. He went against that already. So you not like that. Wayne know you not like that. But now you like that now? And then we
Nope.
seeing what you're
All right.
doing. You know what I'm saying? There's a pattern to this, bro. When I listen to this new Kendrick album, this is black music, bro. Like, this is black music in every
So, all right,
essence.
we're going to get into the Kendrick album. I want to talk Ice Cube, and we're talking all-time greats today. And with that being said, and all that you said, and I want you to keep going because you're cooking right now.
Oh, yeah.
But where do you put Drake on an all-time in hip-hop? Or is he even eligible for that? Because, as you say, he's an outsider.
I would have more respect for putting Drake's music up there if what hasn't transpired this year happened. Because we were putting him in the list with the greats as far as his music ability. I'm not talking damn
Right.
the ghostwriters. I'm talking about the fact that you was able to hold it down every summer, that you was able to feed the base with hits. We had summer bops that you said that was coming, and we never got those summer vibes, by the way, Drake. Where's the summer vibes? But he provided a soundtrack that kept hip hop alive. We have to give him the credit for that, bro. We have to give him the credit for it. He came with bars. He came with good music. He came with the collab albums. But now I guess where we place that, we have to separate what's going on from it, and that's kind of hard to do. So now my answer is kind of like 3 question marks next to it. I don't know where we place him now, because I don't look at him as hip hop, making the moves that he makes or doing the things that he does. Is this really hip hop? I've started to question his place here now.
He still
That's
got
just
back
where
to
I
back,
stand.
right? He still beat Meek Mill in the battle. I don't know at this point if that is more of a high mark to him or more of a low mark for Meek. But he still has that. He still, like you said, has always fed the base. I think this is where I go to when we talk about the all-time greats, man. Like, yeah, I think catalog is super important. I really value album catalog over singles, but I think singles definitely have their place because I've always been vocal about this on this platform that singles actually sell albums. That's cool. So catalog of music, but then some part of it is like, who could this person out rap? You know what I'm saying? And that's where, for me, those are some big deciding factors. There's not a lot of people in my mind that are all time great that Drake can actually out rap. You know what I'm saying? In my mind. Now, correct me if I'm wrong out there. I mean, I would never be able to say that Drake can out rap Black Thought. I would never be able to say that. And I don't even want to just put this on Drake. And I know you guys are going to kill me for this one. I feel the same way about Killer Mike. And that's where I struggle with Killer Mike. It's like, I don't know if we're talking about top 25 guys who he could just flat out rap. And I have that struggle with Drake. I always have, especially when they put him in the conversation with the greats. It's like, yeah, you got dope songs, you got dope singles, you got hits. No one can ever deny you of that. You do the numbers, you do all of that. But who can you actually out rap that we think of to that level that has that catalog and everything else too?
I mean, I don't know what to compare it to. I like Drake's run. The longevity is there. I think one thing that gets shaky here, and which is a good conversation. Drake's been in the game long enough. Has he delivered us a hip hop classic?
I think that for some, you would have Take Care as a classic.
As a hip hop classic?
Yeah, see, that's the word, hip hop classic.
Like, cause I like Nothing Was the Same. I think that stands up there for conversation.
I was gonna
But
say that's
I
usually
don't
the
think
one.
when we talk about classics, I know y'all bring up Illmatic, y'all bring up, Biggs joints, you bring up Pac's joints, and then
Should
we
I
could
try?
even, yeah, Get Rich or Die Trying, and then we have this guy that has an album called Good Kid, Mad City. We cannot say that's not a classic. Do you think Drake has that enough of a like that range of a classic within his discography? You
Yeah,
know,
you're right. I mean, when we sit there and think about even we say the 2010s on because that's Drake's era, right? We might like Take Care and Nothing Was the Same, but they're not on the level of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy or Good Kid, Mad City. I mean, it's just not. I mean,
because because when we look at classics, we put it towards like, can it stand with these albums from the '90s as well? When we talk classics, we're not talking about just the time period. We're talking about overall. Could one of these Drake albums survive in that '90s time? Could that Drake, like when I seen Good Kid, Mad City, I could put that against albums in the '90s. It has the
right.
content. Do Drake have one of those?
Is he that kind of artist though? Because the thing is, what
Oh, you
artist
say
in
you
the
the hip hop goat. You say you
yeah,
the
you're
hip hop
right.
goat.
I mean, but what artist in the '90s could we actually compare Drake to? That's the
It's
question.
not about the style of music, because when we talk about like the
Yeah, we talk about LL and Kane. I mean, that's you know
yeah,
what I'm
when we
saying. Like,
talk
if
about
we're talking
classic
about
albums,
that
none of these
style.
artists are like. There's nobody you can compare 50 to. You know what I'm saying? As far as appeal, we could compare that to Pac in a sense. The image,
DMX,
but as far
as
as
far
the
as the
the,
aggressive
the
content,
content, the music, none of these people that we have classic albums are comparable to each other. Just like you can't compare Nas to Jay. As much as we have our arguments, these are two totally different rappers or two totally different lanes. So it's not about how comparable they are to each other. It's about, can it survive in that time frame?
the
Does
quality.
anything in Drake's range of music, can it go against those classics that we have up there?
I think
I
the
can put Get
problematic
Kid, Mad
thing
City up
here.
there.
I think the problematic thing when I compare Drake's projects to other hip hop classics is the hybrid nature of it all, right? When you have some singing and some rapping, it's like now I got to compare this to Missy or, you know, or like The Love Below or something like that, as opposed to just a straight up rap album. Or I even said this about Lauren's album. Like it's hard for me to even consider the Miseducation of Lauren Hill, as great of an album as it is, as a hip hop album. Like it's hard to even it's not fair to Rod Digger and Dirty Harriet and Lil Kim and Hardcore to compare an album that is an R&B album in nature to those albums. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's the thing that I deal with when it comes to Drake and comparing it to other hip hop classics, because it's so much melodic, so much R&B type of stuff going on, which is not a bad thing, but it kind of lives in its own, categories. DJ Bruce Almighty with the super chat says, can we say the same for Wayne? The Carter 1, 2, 3 are classics, but he doesn't have a Ready to Die, Doggystyle, or Chronic. I'm not mad at that assertion, because I understood that Wayne was for the time and was killing it for the time frame that he was doing it, but I never thought that the Carter 3 was on the level of like a Blueprint or something to me, or even
Nah,
to Get Rich.
that's a mainstream album. It's
It is.
hits. You can listen to it beginning to end, but that was made for a mainstream when you're on top. I'm not mad at that album. That doesn't take away
No, I'm
from
not
it.
mad at it either. Yeah.
But that wasn't for the culture. It was for everybody. Anybody could listen to the
That's your
Carter.
superstar album.
Yeah, that's your superstar album. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That doesn't take away from it. But I guess when I'm thinking about, if we're in an arena and it's hip hop purists, this is hip hop, right? And we take a Drake and we put him on that stage, and we take a Kendrick and put on that stage. Who's gonna rock that stage with MCs more? As far as having those hip hop sounds, we know what that whole collective of Black Hippie does. They come from that. When they're battling each other, they come from spitting. Like,
but I think that
Drake's
goes back to the lyrical skill set and their ability to rhyme. I just think that when you just throw a beat on, and regardless of what people want to say, when Drake made his debut and got on Flex's show and he was reading from the BlackBerry and all that stuff, like, that hurt him early. You know what I'm saying? Like, it did. Like, there was an opportunity right there to get on that show, get on that microphone, and do your thing, and nobody would have had the ability
and
to
this
say
is
anything.
yeah, this is when he's the dweeb, when he's was the
Yeah,
punching bag. We were still, a fan of it, and people were he wasn't cool.
he was trying to touch the city, as he said.
Wheelchair Jimmy, you know what I'm saying, falling on stage and shit.
Yeah,
It's like, this is
getting
the
carried
hand,
off.
and this is, he wasn't cool at that time. The light switched, and all of a sudden, this is a different guy we're talking about now. I don't know, man. It's just like, when we're discussing this, I think people now have to start looking at what they consider not only classics, but how they rate classics. Because I can't, when an album drops and somebody's talking about, oh, this is a classic. Hey, man, a classic to me got to be, if I could listen to this 5 or 10 years later, would still ring off for me. You know what I'm
And
saying? Like,
sometimes you never know that. You know what I'm saying? But there are instances where you hear something, you're like, oh yeah, this is it. And
I thought I had to be a prisoner of the moment.
yeah.
Mm.
I mean, to me, there are levels to classics. You got classics where it's like every song on here is a hit. That's one type of classic. Another type of classic is just an album that flows so greatly together, where it's just a perfect piece of work, and it's classic in that nature. And another one is just the fact that this is somebody operating at the highest level that you hear. Like, I feel like Supreme Clientele from Ghost. That might not have had, I mean, it had Shay Shay La Ghost on it, but it might not have had all the hip hop hits and this and that. But the quality and the level that this person was operating at on this album was just, you're not going to get that moment back. And yeah, those are classic moments.
But we have to think about, like, how we talk about our classics. The way that you guys talk about Illmatic, the way that we talk about, like, Get Rich or Die Trying, the way that we talk about classic albums.
Doggystyle
That's
the top 5 album.
Are people, what within this last 10 years or last 20 years, what is that album that's talked about like that? That if we look back at it, are people still talking about it in that way? Good Kid, Mad City is up there as one of the, not best hip hop albums, but one of the best albums of all time. What is
people
the
still
album?
talk about My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and that. Like, I feel like, in my personal opinion, I feel like Daytona's a classic. I feel like I feel like shit. What am I? Pray for Paris is a classic. I feel like King's Disease 3 is a classic. Shit, I think Magic will be, but again, those on the for me, those are based on the level that that individual is operating on because it's hard to quantify it based on impact these days, right? Like impact is a lot different these days. I mean, we're gonna have to say from impact alone, Not Like Us is a classic, whether there were bots involved or not. I think that
It's a hit.
the, I mean, it's the biggest hit of the year
Yeah,
in
it's
hip hop, at least.
but when I think about classics, like I said, and I always use this as a thing because this is what you guys like to throw up a lot. We talk about Illmatic. I don't
Mhm.
see how somebody could love Illmatic and not like Good Kid, Mad City. This is the same thing. This the guy looking out the window and he's talking about his neighborhood. I said
Well,
this
let's
is
get
now a
to
little bit
this.
further.
This is a good transition, I
Yeah.
think, and I heard this with this album. One of the big things when we talk about hip hop, man, the voice is so important. And I think early on in hip hop, when you had the DJ and the MC, and it was out in the park, the person with the strongest voice for the most part was going to be an MC. Even if you look at the MCs in the 80s, all of them had strong voices. Chuck D had a strong voice. LL had a strong voice. Rakim, you name it. Cube, whoever. And I think that Kendrick's voice for a lot of people doesn't really captivate folks in that same way. Even though we can respect him as a lyricist and we know that bar for bar, he is what he is. He has those rhyme schemes. He's a great storyteller. He has great perspective. He's a concept writer. But I think what holds him back is something that he can't help, and that's his voice. I really saw that on the Reincarnated song where he was trying to channel his inner Tupac. And now again, Tupac, in my opinion, probably has one of the strongest rap voices ever. Even though people talk about his flow being basic or his lyricism being basic, the strength of what Pac did was in his messaging, what he had to say, his perspective, and his voice. And I think that it was blaring on Reincarnated, even when Kendrick was trying to channel his inner Pac on that record, he doesn't have that voice. And I think that's where, for some people who aren't into Kendrick like that, I think that is where the major disconnect is.
So that sounds nitpicky as hell.
No, no, no. Voice is a big thing in hip hop. I
Yeah,
said,
but it's nitpicky
it's
as
funny.
hell because you want to know
It's
why I
funny.
say
Hold
that?
on. Before you go, I do want to say this though. What singer was I thinking about? It was a singer I was thinking about, and I was like, they're a good singer, but I don't like their voice like that. And I think I was thinking about Kelly Price. I was like, Kelly Price not only is a great singer, she has a beautiful voice. So voice does matter. I mean, it could be nitpicky, but if you're listening
No,
to a record, the voice has to be there.
the reason why I say it's nitpicky because it's only nitpicky to what people like. Because
Right.
we can't say, oh, it's his voice, but we could tolerate DMX, we could tolerate Ja Rule, we could even
I think
tolerate
DMX had a dope voice.
Dog. We could even tolerate, but we could tolerate Drake's voice in the beginning.
And I'm not gonna lie to you. I
We could
never liked
tolerate Lil
Drake.
Wayne. We could tolerate Lil Wayne. We can't make out what he's saying. We could tolerate Migos. We could tolerate, like, come on, bro. Like, this sounds like some nitpicky shit. Like, you're talking about his voice and all this stuff, but there's other rappers that have unique voices that's not what anybody says. That's not what anybody says. But because we don't hate those guys, we're not nitpicking. So at first, when it was off Mr. Morale, it was like, oh, there was no bops on there. He gives you an album with bops. They were saying, oh, well, he doesn't collab with other LA artists. He featured 11 LA artists on the record that were all not big, in
Right.
their own right. They said that, oh, he never drops. He gave y'all a surprise drop with more to come. It's like people always trying to move the goalposts when they come to Ken. What do you like? And this doesn't come with being a stan. This doesn't come with being a fan. Let's call a spade, bro. We can't keep on finding things to poke holes in something because you don't like it. Just say you a hater or you don't like it. If you don't like it, if it's not for you, cool. But this shit is hating, bro. To say this is not good music, it bothers me, bro, because everything you criticize him on, he did, and you guys still find something to shit on. Like to say that this album has no bops, like if I play about 3 or 4 songs on this album that's bops, I can get a party cracking off that. You know what I'm saying? And he put the medicine in the candy. He put the medicine in the candy because he still has content there. But he has more bops on. He did everything. It's all around just good album. Take it for what it is. It's not I don't think he made this with the idea of this being a classic pivotal album. I think he made
Yeah,
this for the roots. I think he made this for the culture. And the culture is telling me that they're listening to this. I listened to this all weekend. When I went out, people was playing this in their cars, bro. When I'm on the internet, people are talking about how fire this is. Other artists, even your guy, Nas, is saluting it. Like
just
I just don't understand if
go.
this is trash to you guys, if this is not good to you guys, then what is the standard of what's good music to you guys now? Because this shit just sounds like hating.
Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, Mike, to your point, B has no hit songs on it. However, it's a bona fide classic and probably the most perfect hip hop album ever. They did a great job with B. Okay, let's talk about Kendrick's album because I like it straight up. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna sit here and say I didn't like it, and we can't help but start reflecting on the artist and the artist's previous works. I think Kendrick has put together such a great catalog of albums and projects that we're always going to compare one to the other. Now, granted, I do think this album is better than Mr. Morale, but I don't think it's better than anything else. And that's not a slight to the album or Kendrick. It just shows you how dope his catalog is, right? But I think it starts off very strong. I don't really love the Mustard collabos like that because it feels like each time, and I don't know if it's more on Mustard's end or on Kendrick's end, it feels like they're trying to recreate They're Not Like Us each time. You know what I mean? And I get it. You're right. There are some bops on there, and I get what they're doing with that, but it just Mustard's sound already is repetitive. Let's just keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? And Kendrick, it feels like Kendrick was trying to show his versatility to match up with Mustard's repetitiveness, as opposed to Mustard being a producer and getting in there with one of the most gifted talents of this generation and creating something totally new. You know what I mean? Um,
I think
no,
I think that's even being looked at too deep, bro.
you think so?
And not to take away from what you're saying, Mike, because you're not the only person that's told me, at first they didn't like the mustard joint. You know what I'm saying? So I get
I
it.
mean,
I'm
they're
not
cool. I
I'm
listened to
not
them
shitting
again,
on your
and I was
opinion.
like, I like them, but I just feel
Mhm.
like I guess I expect more from them too.
But
And
so it's
yeah,
not shitting on your opinion because you're not the only person that said that. There's one other person that said that initially. But to me, this is not pandering. This is not trying too hard. This is where he's from. This is his roots. This is
it's true.
his music. This is, like if you listen to Cali music or you listen to like you want to know what the sound, go listen to Drakeo. You know what I'm saying? Like
But it's funny
this
you
is
say all that because you're right. One of our biggest criticisms of Mr. Morale was the fact that LA wasn't playing it. I know Jay Short's not in the room right now. He's one of our West Coast listeners. He was always talking about, yo, nobody in LA is riding around to this Mr. Morale. Nobody, you know what I mean? So he responded to that, like you said.
yeah. So he gives you guys that, and then like this to me, this is not because I hate seeing that when people like he's trying like some haters, he's trying too hard or it's pandering or no nigga, this is where he's from. He made a
Right.
conscious effort to not go with the stereotypical West Coast shit when he came out. That statement was shown already on Good Kid, Mad City. So
Right.
this is why I come in. I ask people, do fools listen to music? Or do you just skim through it? You know what I'm saying? Like this is he told you where he was from in the beginning and stood by that, and then he went on and did some other stuff. Even when he acknowledges why Black Hippie didn't work, he said he had creative. His mind was creatively elsewhere, bro. He was thinking about other stuff. So this is not the stereotypical LA music he makes. This is not the documentary. This stuff
Well,
stands
he
in the
was
body of
never
the
going to
show.
make the documentary. That's not who he was. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
this is
And
not, but he comes from it. He has something he can go back to, bro. This is his roots. This is Cali, dog. Like this is what the bops are like. And I don't think this takes away from it, but to know that he has these roots to go back to, versus the other side's favorite rapper? What is his roots he can go back to musically? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the thing that when he grew up in, you heard this? Like, when I look at that new video he dropped today, there's a lot of symbolism in it. It really is. And so when I'm thinking he's showing you, furthermore, this is his culture. This is where he's from, bro. He can make that shit if he wants to. And this shows you he can do it without effort. I don't see
G
how
Road
anybody
Mo
else
with
can.
the super chat. G Road Mo with the super chat says Kendrick uses his voice as an instrument. The guys you're comparing him to had one tone, one style, and not necessarily palatable for making great songs / music. Really? I mean, I
Every
disagree.
artist with a voice use their voice as music. So I
Right,
agree. His
right.
voice as an instrument, yes.
Well, Kendrick doesn't even have a top 20 hip hop voice. I mean, but again, he is a he's definitely a top 20 talent. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that Jay-Z has the strongest rap voice, but he's able to utilize his voice. Same thing with Kanye. They're able to play into the things that they're really good at. Now, you just mentioned some of the things that Kendrick said on the Heart Part 6, which I
Yes.
think is probably the strongest moment of the album.
That's
But
my favorite
again,
song on the album.
me
Outside
too.
of Dodge Blue and TV Off, and yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he said a lot in there, and a lot of things that I've always thought. Right, I've always thought that when I heard "To Pimp a Butterfly," I was like, "Oh yeah, he's separated himself," because you could tell what he was doing was on a different page than his peers, and not just black hippie, but just period. And the fact that, it wasn't really any of those guys featured on that project either. So I was like, yeah, he's about to, just take off. But I love the way he approached the Hard Part 6, and he's saying some things that he's never said before.
Yeah.
And he's given the props to the guys in the crew. And yeah, I remember J Rock was the guy. You know what I'm saying? He was the gateway to get people on. I remember Ab Soul being somewhat the most popular member to a certain degree. Same thing with Schoolboy Q. So yeah, I really wish we would get that black hippie thing. I do feel like if all else fails, which it won't, but the last thing that Kendrick would be able to, go to, he will always be able to go to a black hippie project to get people excited and interested. You know what I mean? Michael Williams with the super chat says Dot paid homage to Nas, Pac, and Big on the album. Even the cover art is a nod to Jay-Z on Volume 2. Dope.
You know, hey man, the people's hearing when I'm seeing women posting these joints, that says something. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't see too many women I see that's loving Kendrick Lamar albums. When I was in college, there was some women that like Good Kid, Mad City, and stuff like that because it had Poetic Justice joints on there. I'm seeing women posting this album. This is different. This hit different, bro.
That
Like,
Luther song is fire.
I
I
mean,
listen to
this is
that on repeat.
this is black music, bro. And when I say black music, I'm just talking about the rhythms, the beats, the drums, the 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 samples of what he chose to sample, man. It can get you up off your feet and dance. I can go get an edited version of one of these bops and play it in with some older people, and they gonna dance to it. You know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
like
this is
most
black,
of the
this
album for
culture.
sure.
Yeah,
And
man.
somebody said I was a hater in here. I'm not, man. I like the album. I think it's dope. I mean, do you think it's album of the year type of stuff? I mean, based on how you're talking, you got this in the album of the year because we were going to talk about album of the year on this episode until
It gets put in the conversation. It
okay.
gets split in the conversation because that actually this fourth quarter has been pretty good, man. There's some pretty good albums that dropped this year,
We didn't even
and
see this
but
one coming.
yeah, and I also speak on like how people what the impact is of people talking about it. Um, and man, I haven't seen anybody talk about anybody's work like they're talking about Kendrick. I'm not gonna lie. Even the ones that I consider being good albums, I just don't see it, bro. Like I don't see the conversation and the impacts for other artists being the same. I've seen it for Glow. I've seen it for Big X the Plug. But you know, I haven't seen it for anybody else. Like as far as the conversation, and that tells something now with this era of music, is what the people are saying. I played this album in a barbershop, and back in the day, you play a record in the barbershop, everybody's vibing to it. That's what the streets is listening to. I played this in the barbershop, and niggas like they made me run back whacked out murals because they were like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Those you I can't tell you the last time I heard the excitement for music like that again, like for bars and
Well,
stuff
he
like that.
started off really.
Long
He
time.
started this album off really strong. I'm not a big fan of Reincarnated. I didn't like GNX like that. I think there's some skips here, in ways that we're not used to getting skips from Kendrick. Michael Williams with the super chat says, "Do you think GNX is better than You Only Die Once by Freddie?" Now, I still got Freddie above that, personally.
Freddie, I like Freddie's
Yeah,
album. And I don't want to big up the Nets, but I don't think Freddie's better than this album. I don't think it's better than GNX.
really.
Because it's just like it's a part of the series of music that already sounds like that in a sense. I love the production, I love the bars, but it's not pushing the envelope. And one thing I could say about like Kendrick is every album sounds different. And let's take Kendrick out the equation. I like Corday's album. I think that it pushes an envelope and furtherment of his him his music evolving, the sound evolving, the content evolving. When I listen
Showing
to,
evolution.
I'm sorry,
It shows evolution and
yeah, when I
development.
listen to Tyler, we could see Tyler pushing the envelope further and further. You know what I'm saying? What is the next thing he can go to? I'm seeing him sharpening his pen. I see him doing his thing. When I see like people that are dropping like Glow, and I see like how we seen from how she came into the industry, and people were questioning, was this a flash in the pan? Was this just a one hit wonder? And I see her building up to this mixtapes and singles, and I see she didn't disappoint on the album officially, and the reaction to that. I see that, so there's a lot of good albums, but like I judge on a big scale of things, and my biggest scale right now is what is the streets listening to, because that means a lot. Not
Well, I
just
mean, hip hop is the
whatever,
streets.
what
So,
the
yeah.
streets listen to.
So what songs on here do you think are the bangers on this record? Because I mean, we could hear that there were some attempts to make some bangers. I think the best song on here is "The Heart Part 6." Um, I do think Luther is a strong record on here. He doesn't really rap on it like that. Squabble Up. What do you think of the bangers that are on this album?
Um, I don't know if anybody will like this, who's not a Kendrick fan, but I would say that the hit that stands out like a sore thumb is "Squabble Up." We're gonna hear that. That is a party record. He dropped that. There's a reason he dropped that as a single with the video. I
Right.
think Peekaboo is one of those ones. Peekaboo is dope. I like Hey Now, and I think TV Off is that one. After Squabble Up, TV Off is that one. I'm surprised he didn't have that as the first single. But those are the bops off there. You know what I'm saying? I like TV Off out of all the bops, I like TV Off the best out of that. But my favorite song off the album is The Heart Sits. But yeah, man, those ones you could drop that, and the DJs got them something off this album. They got at least 3 or 4 that they
So
can
what did
make
you
work.
think about the Squabble Up video?
A lot of symbolism, man. A lot of symbolism.
Let's go through it.
Yeah, it's just medicine and candy. It wasn't nothing too fancy. It wasn't nothing that looked like it had a great big budget. But let's start off like I think him having the African American flags hanging, I think that was dope. If you I watched the video like 3 times. When you go back and you look at the book, it was like How to Be Like Kendrick for Dummies. That's the book that he's reading on that part. When you see the record hanging down when everybody's dancing, that's Nate Dogg G Funk Classics Volume 1 and 2. Um, when you see the end where there's Isaac Hayes, that's from a classic album. Then you look to the statue, that's Black Panthers. Um, when you see the picture in the back, that's Black Jesus. Um, I think then he's taking you through a history lesson of LA music. When the woman is in the back and she's holding the sawed off in the back, that's Ice-T Power album. People gotta
Hmm.
do their research. Ice-T second album. Um,
What do you think
It's just
about people
symbolism. This
who
is LA.
criticize this
But
stuff and say that it's forced and it's not organic in that sense?
how? Because he's showing symbolic, like this is symbolism from where he's from. How?
Ron texted
I
me
don't
and was
think
like, "This is what Ron texted me and said, nigga, you know you don't like this shit." Shaking my head. Listen, I like the album. I think it's dope. I think that it's again, it's better than Mr. Morale. I don't think it's better than Section 80 or Damn or anything like that. I do think that some of these records are probably going to grow more than the stuff on Mr. Morale did. I do appreciate the writing on Mr. Morale. I will say that. I was always impressed by the writing on Mr. Morale, but I do think that these songs are going to connect a little bit better. I think for a certain generation, again, it's Kendrick's voice that doesn't connect. Because once you take that part of it out, I think that when you look at, you know what I'm saying, his bar work, his perspective, his delivery, lyricism, I mean, it can't be denied. The only weak link that he does have is, his voice. And I don't really love, like I said, his lyrical approach on the Mustard records like I like his approach on some of the other records. I mean, that's just me. Where would
I
you
just
put this in his catalog? Is it too
it
early
goes
to
in.
tell?
It is too early to tell, but I know people look at his albums all subjectively. I would say it's in his top three.
Ooh,
It's in his
top
top.
three.
It's in his top three
So
because
you got it
damn,
better than Jam?
yeah, and the only reason why I got it better than Damn is because you could tell Damn. You know how we say Carter 3 was that album for everybody. Damn is
Yeah.
that album for everybody. Even though he made a lot of good statements on that album, um, like when you have records like Be Humble and stuff like that, and those are being played at on the NBA games and TV and stuff like this. That was the album of where it was for everybody. Good Kid, Mad City was the album for the culture. To Pimp a Butterfly was for us, the circumstances surrounding black people. It was deeper, a lot of G Funk experience, and that's an acquired taste to a lot of people. I put that in that top three. So it Mr. Morale is not my favorite record. A lot of people love Section 80, but it's hard to compare Section 80 to these bigger bodies of work as well. I like Section 80, but it was like, I don't know how that compares to his major body, his major releases. So I would say this GNX album is definitely in his top three. Even I like the Black Panther track, even though that wasn't an album with just him. He had, that was a conglomerate of people, but even the Black Panther soundtrack was dope. But I'll say GNX is in the top three.
Damn, got some joints. Michael Williams in the super chat says, "Whacked out." I'm sorry, whacked out murals is one of the hardest opening songs since Speechless. That Spanish singing / guitar sample is cold. We got another super chat here with Jermaine Johnson. He says, "I can't stop listening to Man at the Garden." Nas performed one mic last year at his one night only at Madison Square Garden show in NYC and killed it.
Yeah, I seen that was dope. He did I seen he brought what's the name out and did Life's a Bitch.
Yep, AZ. Shout out to AZ. Somebody bringing up Overly Dedicated. So you're going back now. I mean, I could throw Overly Dedicated out there, and I think that at this point, I would need to listen to both records. I do feel like Section 80. I mean, you got stuff like Rigor Mortis. You got stuff like High Power on there. You got stuff like my personal favorite, ADHD. These are dope records.
Yeah.
Damn was pretty cold too, man. I mean, even though DNA kind of got played out, I think Humble is probably one of the weaker moments on it, but it was a hit. You got Love on there, you got Loyalty on there, you got Element on there, you got
Yeah.
Feel on there. Yeah, I think personally, even though I don't think Damn is his best body of work,
It
I
was a good body of work.
I, I think the Damn to me might signify who he is front to back better than any other album. I feel like Good Kid, Mad City was more of the machine stepping in and them cultivating a great album with him. You know, there's a lot of Dr. Dre influence as far as like how the skits and all those things connect and come together that you could tell. I mean, even listening to these new Snoop records, you could tell the difference between Snoop not working with Dr. Dre and now Snoop working with Dr. Dre. Like out of the
Absolutely.
blue, sounds like Snoop, but it sounds like Dr. Dre's involved. And that's how I feel like, Good Kid, Mad City. As far as To Pimp a Butterfly, which I feel like is his best piece of work ever, in
I
my
love To
personal
Pimp a Butterfly. Yeah.
sounds like I always thought, man, I always wanted to think that that was really him. But the way that he reacted to Pimp a Butterfly after the fact, that might have been more of the, George Clinton, Andre, all of these guys that were
Us
probably around during
so
that
many. Yeah, there's so many
time.
samples and G funk and the funk influences. Like
I
then,
love To
like
Pimp a
was on the
Butterfly.
first album. Didn't he? It was George Clinton like on the first or second joint on there?
Yeah, he was in the studio
Yeah,
most of the time during that
yeah.
project, man. That's my personal favorite one from
That
him.
album's a acquired taste for some people though. But
Yeah, people didn't
I
really
like
fuck with it like that. I remember when
yeah,
I first heard it, I was like, "Yo, man, this is the one," and everybody's like, "Eh." But people
nah,
gravitated to Good Kid, Mad City because, again, I felt like Good Kid, Mad City was that Carter 3 moment for him, that good Richard Die Trying moment for him. Whereas To Pimp a Butterfly, I think if you're gonna come with a follow up album from a Good Kid, Mad City, that's a great follow up. To
yeah,
me, that's his
I
best
agree.
project.
Yeah,
It's a
I
great,
agree. Like
even
Good
though
Kid, Mad
everybody
City.
didn't get it, they could go back and listen to it and be like, "Yo, I slept on this." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Good Kid, Mad City is one of those albums. If I want to introduce somebody to hip hop in my era of what I would want them to listen to, that's one of those albums. It has a story. It has the skits and interludes that complement the story. It has messages. It has it has the records on there. Like I think that was just a complete body of work um to art. To Pimp a Butterfly is black music. Like I would say GNX, but this is black music of things that I grew up listening to as a kid in the house that I hear grandma play or grandpa play or something like that. Those are samples. Or if you grew up listening to G Funk inspired music, it was there. It takes me back to how Dre used to produce his music and the samples he would grab and everything from those funk inspired records. So Pimp a Butterfly Statement is one of his bodies of work that doesn't get the credit it deserves for how great it is.
I agree. Michael Williams with the super chat says we need to stop calling albums classic the day they're released, though classics are classics because they stand the test of time. Sometimes you're able to call it ahead of time. I feel like the Source magazine started that back in the day where they would give an album 5 mics and it was classic status. So we start calling things classic out the gate based on what their rating was or how close they got to that 5 mic rating. Did you hear? Well, I'm sure you heard it. We talked about it. What
Mm.
did you think about they officially released Snoop Dogg song Out of the Blue, the one that was previewed on Drink Champs. It's actually on streaming platforms now. Did you get a chance to listen to the record?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It sounds polished, man. The two
Yeah.
records that I see released with Snoop, they just sound like the mix and masters is like it's crisp, man. It sounds so polished of records. And that's when I know, man, him and Dre was locked in. And it sounds like Dre was having fun again, man. That's what it really seems like. To see them doing interviews together and just
Yeah.
the look on his face when he's talking about doing music again. When Dre gets in that bag of being excited and inspired with doing music, you know there's good shit to come from that. Um,
I think the record's dope. I do think that people are kind of putting a lot of extras on it. I saw, Mad Skills, shout out to him on
mm,
Twitter. He was like, going crazy over it. And I get it, you know what I'm saying? It's Snoop and Dre. It's something to go crazy about. But, as y'all know, I feel like they're the best producer and rapper combination we've ever had. And this is probably the most anticipated album for me since I've been even doing a podcast. But I liked the first record better than this one. The first single. What was it? Gorgeous? Is that it?
yeah, with Nate
Yeah.
Hako.
Yeah. I like that record better. Out of the Blue was dope, but I guess for a banger, you know, it's an it's an album song more so than a single to me, and I could be wrong. All right, so this is what I did when I heard Out of the Blue. Maybe I'm wrong for doing this.
Mm,
You know what record I went back and played to see if I was tripping?
what's up?
I went back and played 50 Cent's Out of Control remix with Mobb Deep.
I
And
like
I
that
was
record.
that shit is crazy.
Mhm.
And for me,
The
and I
original
know
was good too.
that ain't recent Dre because that was eons ago as well. I'm not gonna compare it to G Funk. I'm not gonna compare it to Doggystyle, any of that stuff. But a modern club banger from Dre, I was like, I play Out of Control, and then I play Out of the Blue. No relation, if you will. And I was like, yeah, it's not the same level, in my opinion. One's an 8, one's a 10.
Mike, this is gonna hurt your way of how you view this album.
Uh-huh.
The reason why I say that, if you go in listening to this album with making comparisons to their last work, you're gonna be
Yes,
disappointed always. Doggy
yes.
Style's 31 years old today.
I didn't say anything about Doggy Style. That's on a
No,
whole
but
different page.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying, just to give a timeline with these classics took place. Doggy Style's 31 years ago. Then we look at 2001. We look at 2001. We look at the Chronic. The Chronic was beforehand. We look at these albums, and to your point, we could only judge an album for what the previous work was. But
Yeah.
with Dre, we can't really do that because the consistency with Dre's music, or even the production wasn't always there. Snoop continuously made music, and it's up for debate how people view Snoop's albums. But if we're comparing it to their best work, we're already kind of failing each other on the sound of this because, uh, comparing Dre and Snoop now with their age and the direction of music and how people view music and how certain things are like criticized and people are canceled for certain things, we can't look at it with those same eyes as like the previous works.
Well, this album is
Gotta take it
not, in
what it is.
my opinion, is never going to be compared to Doggy Style. Well, I'll put it this way: it ain't even about being compared. I think the mark to hit, and I'm sure when they go in the studio, they have a mark to hit. Thumbs up in the chat. We're gonna get to this Ice Cube thing too, and we're gonna talk about who's greater all time, Kendrick or Cube. I think that's an interesting discussion. But I think the mark here is really Rhythm and Gangsta. And can Dr. Dre make a better album for Snoop than Rhythm and Gangsta? I don't expect them to make Doggy Style. Snoop right now is not even the same guy that made Doggy Style. Dre's not the same guy that made Doggy Style either. So that's just kind of out of the window. But I do think that Snoop today is somewhat the guy who made Rhythm and Gangsta. Now, do you
I
think
agree.
it's a lofty thing, or do you think that it's a realistic goal to make an album better than Rhythm and Gangsta? Since people
Um,
want to talk about Snoop's catalog.
I actually like that comparison on where you're saying Rhythm and Gangsta, because people got to remember it was on Rhythm and Gangsta. That's where you
Rhythm
get
and Gangsta, yeah,
production.
joint.
Isn't a joint with Pharrell on there too? The
Let's Get
not
Bones on there.
Let's
Drop It
Get
Like
Blunt,
It's Hot on there. Yeah,
stuff like that. Yep.
yeah.
So actually,
Time.
that's an excellent comparison of where we could see him being on here based on what's been released. Um, but I like what they did, and at first I was like, the expectation is back. But when I look at it, it's not about placing the expectation; it's showing you where they're at. So they're saying this is basically the sequel to Doggy Style, where Doggy Style 31 years ago. This is young 21-year-old Snoop, and
Mhm.
now this is Missionary, which is now what 50-something-year-old Snoop. I think it's a sequel, but it's also a sequel to the type of music and the type of space where they're at musically now at their age.
So
So
you're
we're
talking
not
about
listening.
Reasonable Doubt, American Gangster type thing.
I feel like this is where they're at now. This is the music from where they're at now, and not more so of, oh man, this is a sequel of documentary. I mean of Doggy Style, because when we go in with thinking things are going to be sequels to certain things, we draw it to that classic, and it could cause disappointment with trying to compare it to that. So I think how they've been rolling it out and talking about it built the excitement where it's not taken away from the expectations. I just think the anticipation is a little different here because we've been waiting on like a Detox album to drop for so long, or you know it's just like we see how that plays out. And I think because they are who they are, we're always gonna give it a fair listen because they're icons. They're bigger than hip hop, but we could only take it for what it is right now and try not to compare it to their previous works.
Yeah, I mean it's hard though, because Dre and Snoop, we don't get them together often. So The only
Yeah,
thing we have is the Chronic and Doggystyle to compare him to, and those are really, really big hills to climb. Now, I will say this about Snoop's catalogs. People want to say he only has one classic, this, that, and the third, which I don't totally agree with.
I don't
I
agree
think
with that.
if we're talking about in a versus type of format, and you go in 20 songs deep, Snoop, it might be the most difficult person to beat. I would say Tupac is the most difficult person to beat because of his range, because of his energy, you know what I'm saying, and his ability to speak on so many different things. It's a hard matchup for damn near anybody. But Snoop, sonically, his catalog is insane, and he didn't do that by just making one classic album. He's a part of so much great music, and Blue Carpet Treatment. It's an underrated
Yeah.
album. Top Dog is an underrated album.
Yes.
Honestly, Rhythm and Gangsta could fall in that category as well. And I think that because he made Doggystyle at such a young age and such great impact out the gate, he could go out there and drop quality albums that could possibly be considered classic if it was another artist, and they get overlooked because he's Snoop Dogg who made Doggystyle. And
You know,
go
I
ahead.
had to take myself out of this. I had to check my own self on this because I seen when we were talking about in the community we were talking about the Dog Father and how that was a bad sophomore album. We know what that was victim of: Dre leaving, murder case, different production. It just didn't have the hits on the album, right?
Stop
And then
being on now, yeah.
yeah, but when we really look at Snoop's albums in entirety, throughout the time, if you're not a person that really likes West Coast music, I can see how you don't feel so strong about a lot of those albums because Snoop really does still keep it West Coast. Outside of
Exactly.
it, he really does.
Well, I think
But
that's his Achilles heel for because he's so mainstream, but like you said, he keeps it so local. People who don't really understand what the West Coast sound and vibe and bop is like, they're like,
yeah,
I ain't fucking with that. You know what I'm saying? And I think that it's a great credit to him to be what he is to the West Coast, to keep it so West Coast. But what he is to the world, it kind of makes it look like he's not making, music that hits every chakra.
because I think like the true testament to Snoop is that you can go to a totally different label. That's the South before it's the South we know it now, and adapt to what they're doing over their beats and still keep it Snoop and come with dope albums from that, and then
Connect
go
with
on.
the Neptunes and do the same thing.
Exactly. And then we still got records like Lay Low on The Last Meal. Like the way that
Yeah.
he's able to be a chameleon with still keeping it Snoop is also very impressive to me as well. You
Bitch,
know,
please on Top Dog with fuck them other niggas. Like he can
come
do
on, man.
these things seamlessly.
Yeah, so it's like Snoop is one of one. We're never gonna get another Snoop. We're not. And I think when we're talking about this album, we really have to just take it for what it is, man. Doggystyle, what? It's the 31st anniversary today,
I don't think it was today, it might have been a couple days ago, but it's
or a
this
couple
week.
days ago.
I
Okay.
mean, top
So
five hip hop album all time to me. Straight
yeah,
up.
yeah. So, man, when I think about that album, right, and how big of a classic, we're talking about skits, we're talking about hits, and we're talking about, just overall sound of music, like to be so young to come out with that thing and to know that the sophomore jinx was something that people looked at more during that time than it is now. Somebody could release a sophomore album, it does, and they could just drop something like it never happened. Back then, that could make or break your career, and it like Dogfather not being as good as Doggystyle, and for him to still be in the game for this long. Snoop's been popular since I was like not even walking yet. You know what I'm
Well, all right,
saying?
let's rewind and let's talk about Doggy Style and the history of Doggy Style in that sense, because we got build-ups like Get Rich or Die Trying, or even a build-up like All Eyes on Me. The
Yeah, I
first
probably
real
was.
build-up, huh?
That's how I probably was walking. My bad. I had to look back on the video.
The first real build-up was Doggy Style, because we heard Snoop on G Thing and heard him all over the Chronic. So the buzz was being created at that point. And so when Doggy Style dropped, Snoop became the fastest selling, Doggy Style became the fastest selling rap album in history, just based on the fact that he was able to develop the buzz all the way from, deep cover to the Chronic. I mean, he was all on Dre Day. He was on Let Me Ride on the Hook. He was on G Thang, one of the biggest records of its time. And then when it was time for him to come up, oh, you got Gin and Juice. You got What's My Name. You got Doggy Dog World. Like, if we got It Ain't No Fun. Like, nigga, he was coming with haymakers. And he had the persona, the personality, his mic performance on that album. He's literally, I don't want to say he's living off of Doggystyle to this day, but he kind of is. Like, he kept it up. No, don't get it twisted. He kept up, the aura. He kept up the energy. He kept up the star power. But he is able to maintain that level or get that level back throughout his career. And that's just a testament to how incredible of an album that is and how incredible of a star Snoop is and was and always has been. I think he is hip hop's biggest superstar, either him or Pop. But the fact that he's done it for this long, and we didn't get a chance to see how long Pop could maintain that star power ability, I gotta give it to Snoop.
But because to me, he's the most famous rapper of all time. Everybody knows Snoop.
Yeah, there's nobody who doesn't know who Snoop is.
People of all races, people know who Snoop is, and the fact that he's going, bro. He's still going. You can't help but not see Snoop on something. Like, he's so involved with other things. He became such a likable guy. Who knew that this guy that was in a murder trial and going through that situation and overcoming that will be the guy that we're looking at now? He's welcome to all ages. You know what I'm saying? Like, the things that he's done, it's amazing, bro. Like, Snoop is he's there should be, at the end of the day, you know how they will have universities, they're teaching classes on certain shit and stuff, like those little special courses. There should be one on Snoop. The way he's able to transition with his career and still be relevant in some way, and still be as famous as he is to someday, man. Snoop is he's a treasure, bro. We don't get others like him. I remember when Snoop was looking back at old interviews, and you see Snoop was he wasn't talking in interviews. He was not a man of many words. Now you see this guy doing commentary for stuff with the Olympics and stuff like that. Man, shows with Martha Stewart.
He had his own variety show. You remember the Doggy Fizzle show and all that? He's Snoop, man. Somebody said To Pimp a Butterfly is on the level of It Takes a Nation and Millions to Hold Us Back. Listen, man. I mean, I love To Pimp a Butterfly more than the next man. But it is not that album. And if y'all want to go track for track and play these songs track for track, it will embarrass that record. I'm sorry. I love To Pimp a Butterfly, but It Takes a Nation and Millions to Hold Us Back. Now that, in my opinion, I think that could be considered hip-hop's greatest album ever. The way that shit sounds is so far ahead of everything. Even to this day. Like, Bring the Noise, Rebel Without a Pause. You have I Got a Letter from the Government. I mean, it's man. Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos. Like, man. Public Enemy was on some other shit, man. That changed the game. That changed the way everybody made anything moving forward. I think Paid in Full was a turning point. That album is why we got Straight Outta Compton. That is why we got, the Low End Theory and things like that. Yeah, that's a different level. Now, I could understand
all of this. You can go.
I was gonna say I could understand his perspective being in somewhat in a Chuck D place, but I think when you think about the production of Public Enemy, to me, that's what sets them aside from everyone else. Like, I think that the era that I grew up in hip hop in, conscious rappers had like more of a, how do I say this without sounding disrespectful? More of like one of those head rap type of vibes when it came to the production. It was more of a quote unquote, more of a Dilla vibe, which is dope. It was more laid back. It was more incense vibe. But Public Enemy's consciousness, that shit was in your face. It was like the hardest beat you were gonna hear, period. It was like if a trap rapper like a Travis Scott who was coming with crazy sonics was speaking on some militant type of shit. That's what Public Enemy was. And then you had, Flavor Flav out there just doing whatever on top of that. It was,
You
Public Enemy.
know, when I think about Public Enemy, man, and the statement they made, and then you can see the influence on later rappers with that route and the things that are willing to address and rebel against, and their importance. I wonder, and I guess this is a question I can answer on my own, but I see there's a difference between how those artists are pushed or signed these days versus like Public Enemy was on a big label, you
Yeah.
know,
And I gotta give
big,
I gotta give Rick Rubin a lot of credit for trying to I don't want to say forced them to sign. Those guys were in radio. They didn't want to do a major deal. Rick
mm-hmm.
Rubin felt like the world needed to hear these guys, and he convinced them to go out there and let their voices be heard. I think the story is they saw Run DMC Madison Square Garden holding up the Adidas, whatever, and they saw how powerful that was, and they were like, okay, well, we'll listen to Rick and we'll go out there and do this record deal thing. But yeah, shout out to Rick Rubin for being able to see that and taking the chance on an act like this and pushing them, like you said.
Do you think there was a conscious effort to not for labels not to sign artists with such a message of that now or the years to come? Like we've seen other artists try to make those statements, but this is for them to be on a big record label and not seeing that really with big art, those type of artists being signed on big labels now. Do you think that was just like it was done on purpose?
This is what I think. I think that Public Enemy, they're just that Public Enemy. Look at the logo where, you got a man within the B-boy stands in the crosshairs, right? I think that the way that they handled their music or the approach that they took to their music hit the chakras of like a 3-6 Mafia does sonically, but they actually had a message. And I do feel like what NWA was able to take from Public Enemy sonically, especially from that It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back, and basically kind of bit their style on Straight Outta Compton. But these were young guys who were a little less focused, right? And they were a little bit more gangster, a little more edgy. And then when they lost Cube, they were just even more reckless. I think that NWA started to kind of piggyback on Public Enemy's sound, but at the same time dilute the message because they were coming with similar sounds, but more of a reckless message. And then boom, you got gangster rap, and then boom, now this is what people are buying. People ain't buying the quote unquote conscious stuff anymore. And I think that tide turning is what kind of led to more gangster rap artists or artists who are a little less conscious, getting those opportunities, and the people who came in more of a conscious front getting less opportunities. I think that's why Pac felt like he had to straddle that line of talking some wild shit and then, talking some conscious shit at the same time because he was in the middle of it all.
I just think those artists was trying to figure it out with how to balance the
Of
both.
course. They
When
wanted
we
those
look at it
opportunities.
now, we have things to like use as reference. So when we look at Kanye, he was the last attempt at as conscious being cool in the beginning. He even says he used a conscious wave. But when he dropped college dropout, you see that line start to open again. You get dilated peoples, you get in like all these artists that's now come to the slew of things. Common got popular again, Talib got popular again, Most Def got popular again. And these are artists that always push that, the narrative in that realm of music. But I think what's missing from like the quote unquote conscious rapper is you still have to make it look cool. And Kanye
It's
made
the
it look cool.
it's
Yeah.
the edge. A lot of these MCs who approach hip hop or their music on more of a conscious level don't have that edge. That's what made Public Enemy different. They had an edge. Ice Cube had an edge. Like Pac had an edge. And Kanye, even though Kanye might not have street credibility per se, Kanye has an edge in ways that many of the other people in the conscious community at that point didn't. He actually let you know, like, yo, you sleeping on what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? I'm really great. None of the conscious rappers would tell you that. Like they would be so humble about what they put out. There was no conscious MCs that had that level of vibrato outside of the mic. All their vibrato was on the mic. When they did interviews, they weren't talking that shit. Kanye was doing that. And if he didn't do that, I don't care what anyone says. Kanye didn't go out there and talk his shit, people would have ignored his music too. If he would have went out there being humble, and even though he was bratty about awards and all that stuff, but he wouldn't have got that recognition if he didn't act like that.
But
And that's
the music, and just because it's conscious don't mean it's all sounds good sonically. Kanye made good music, so that
listen, there
supports.
are whack conscious rappers too. I say that all the time. Like, no disrespect, but Big Pooh from Little Brother is not the dopest MC to me. I don't care if he's conscious or whatever. You know what I mean?
Because to me, you still have to make good music, and there's
Yeah.
conscious rappers that has the content and the message is there, but it just doesn't sound. It's not it's like at the end of the day, and Kendrick is a good example on why he's criticizing some people. You still got to put the medicine in the candy. You still got to give something that people can digest musically, because we want to still hear good music. When your message get away from the music being good, that's why I think it doesn't do it for conscious rappers. You
I
know.
think Kendrick's Achilles heel is the hit records, right? I mean, is that a fair assertion? Like, if he were to go 20 songs deep in the verses, I mean, how many people you think he would be able to beat that are all time greats?
When you really think about Kendrick's early hits, they weren't traditionally radio records,
Yeah,
you know, and people
agreed.
like Kanye and that found how to put certain like sounds to certain messages they want to get across. Kendrick is kind of like a student of all of that, and knowing that there's a way you put medicine in the candy. So it's like Kanye, he has hits, but when you look at Stronger as being a hit, that doesn't define what that album is.
No, it doesn't.
You know what I'm
That, but
saying?
see, that's his superstar moment, like you said about the Carter Three. That's Lollipop.
But yeah, but when you think about that album, there's still messaging on Graduation. Graduation is a good album. Like I said,
Oh,
the
yeah.
music just has to be good, bro. Good Kid, Mad City. It didn't necessarily have the bops. The singles weren't traditionally your radio hit singles. They was fairly slow in tempo, but they were still good records. You have to like have good music, and that's what Kanye had. He gave you 3 albums, a run of great bodies of work. So I think that's just what if you're a conscious rapper, I think you just can't get too conscious to the point to where you have to forget this is still the music industry and it's still music and people still want to hear good music. It doesn't make it good just because your message is dope. It still got to be a good song, and
But
that's
yeah,
just
I mean, I think production is important. Again, that's where Public Enemy comes in. At. I think that many of the MCs in the conscious community took messaging over production, if that makes any sense. And again, that's what makes Kanye different. B is what it is from Common because Kanye stepped in and said, yo, we're gonna really, we're gonna really produce something here. Not to say that Common didn't have dope production before, because he did. I think Like Water for Chocolate is a very well produced album. Even though people don't like Electric Circus, it's well produced. It didn't connect for people. But what Kanye was able to do on B was like, yo, we're gonna have some dope production that you're gonna be inspired by, and we're gonna make it connect with the people. And I think that that was the first time that really happened for him. Shit, even when you look at Only Built for Cuban Links, production is there. Doggystyle, production is there. Get Rich or Die Trying, production is there. Like, production is important. Whether people want to, acknowledge that or not, yeah, you dope on the mic, but the production is still going to be important. I mean, really, what would you say is your favorite hip hop album where the production is not there?
where the production is not there.
Exactly.
I don't know if I could name a great album where it doesn't have the production that's there. To be
Yeah.
totally, I can't do that. It
I
has
mean,
to complement
they
the
come
production.
together.
Yeah, the Sonics have to be there. The production has to be there for me. That's the same reason why we criticize Mr. Morale, is because
Yeah.
it just didn't have it. It didn't have the Sonics that people liked. You know what I'm saying? Like it
Yeah.
was probably one of his most criticized albums, if anything. So you just have to, you can't get too conscious to where you're away from the music. You can't. And one of the guys who's always been conscious, but he figured out a way of how to do it is Cube, who just released his new album.
Yep.
And when you think about Cube from NWA on to this point, uh, Ice Cube always had something to talk about. Even on his
Exactly.
album, he's addressing things, and he's
I
never
love
ran.
this album.
He's always been a rebel. He's always been a rebel. So it's like for Cube taking that stance, but still knowing, hey, I still got to make some joints. You know, he even got it. I don't see how
Cube
rappers of
talks
today
that
doesn't
shit.
get it.
I love Cube, man, because Cube talks that shit. He says the things that other people just ain't gonna say. Somebody said Cube's a hypocrite. I love to have this conversation. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says NWA is exactly what they wanted. It would have been dangerous to have a bunch of public enemies as our role models and as the standard for mainstream pop. Listen, man, I didn't get into Malcolm X as much as I did into Public Enemy, really made Malcolm X a point and the Nation of Islam and their messaging and the things that they were talking about for Black people. All we heard was Dr. King, which is great, but I think that Public Enemy brought a lot of things to the forefront that, I mean, shit, even Louis Farrakhan, Minister Farrakhan, um, Public Enemy helped bring him to a whole generation that wasn't really aware because mainstream media was not giving the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan or Malcolm X that level of a platform that they would give other, Black leaders. And so Public Enemy really had a lot to do with bringing that to the forefront. And yes, I could see how someone would feel that that's dangerous to the mainstream media and to the establishment, if you will. But yes, Cube's new album, Man
Yeah.
Down. The intro for me wasn't that strong. Khalid Muhammad too, yes. Rest in peace to him. The intro wasn't that strong for me, and then when it came down to it started building, and I was like, okay, Cube's spitting here. And he said, O'Shea ain't Boule. I'm like, wow. I don't really know. I don't think I've heard a rapper even address the whole Boule thing in a
Mm.
rhyme. That lets you know that he got his ear to the streets and he's got his ear to the grassroots. Cube has always been consistent in being that nigga you love to hate. He's gonna say um, these phrases, these punchlines where you're like, oh, did he say that? Like when he said, what did he say? He was like, you're not bipolar, she buy weed or something he said. I'm like, yo, man, Cube is very witty with this stuff, an incredible writer. He's not your quote unquote metaphor rapper, any of those things. He's just gonna give it to you straight. And I think he did that with this album. And for me, this album is very enjoyable. I rock with it. I know we had a discussion. I called in Leroy and Ron was talking on the Weekend Ron, and Leroy and Super Duper, shout out to him, got into a heated exchange in the fact that Leroy felt that he wanted to hear Cube speak on more, I guess, dissing Trump, if you will, or
Political shit.
wrecked
I
in the
want to.
political game. Huh?
I can see how Leroy would want that because Cube is
But
such
Super
vocal.
Duper's thing was you don't ask that same thing of Jay-Z. And, we all know that Jay-Z is Leroy's guy. And he felt that was unfair that you
Point.
would put that on Cube and not on, Leroy.
That's
I mean,
the
not
point. I
Leroy.
just don't. I don't want to hear like I've coming off that election season. I can hear some people have songs and opinions because the music has to reflect reality at some point. But I
Yeah.
don't want to hear the political shit. You know what I'm saying? I took it. I didn't get through all Cube's album. It's kind of and it's not that it's bad because there's a couple joints on there I do like, and I could name those. But it was kind of hard listening to Cube's album coming off that Kendrick album, and it's only
Really?
because Cube's been spitting the same way his whole career, and that's kind of like it's hard to it's
It's
not a
about
knock
the
on it. It's not
words.
bad. It's just the fact that like it's hard listening to this with the same ear after coming off that Kendrick album. So I have to come back to this stuff and try to listen to it with without that being in the background of my mind, because I do think from the joints I heard on there, I got about halfway through the album, and there are some joints on there where he's addressing some things on there. Like I my favorite records on there, I like Three Little Piggies. That's one of the ones I do like. I like Three Little Piggies on there. I like She's Sanctified. I think that
Yeah,
was a good record.
sanctified is
I like
fine.
hearing them with E40 and Too Short.
Yeah,
I like that. And I like 5150. You know,
I like So Sensitive. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Yeah, It's My
and so
Ego. I know that was out. That was a single, but I like that too.
I like his line
Because,
on there. He said he was Kendrick before Kendrick, and I mean, in a sense,
I
I
mean, yeah, of
mean,
course.
it's a good statement to make.
Kendrick's
You know,
not cute. Kendrick's not cute to me, but I get it. I mean, I will say this: when Kendrick drops, he stops the world, and everybody pays attention, whether it's bots or not, Drake. But at this point, when Kendrick drops an album, it stops things, it moves things. He's a mover and shaker in this culture, and I'm trying to think of who else would make basically the whole hip hop world stop in their prime and when they drop an album. Because we didn't get a lot of surprise albums back in the day. I mean, I could compare how, Kendrick is stopping the world to Jay-Z at his prime or his peak, whatever, and Wayne at his peak. Um,
another thing, I didn't have expectations of the Cube album, just like I did for MC Light, just like I did for LL. Cube goes in that same box as them, for
yeah, I
me.
mean,
And the
he's a
reason
vet.
why I'm not expecting to, this is a guy that you can't get me to talk shit about. What
Yeah,
Cube has done in music and outside of music has been very impressive. We just got done talking about Snoop, but what Cube has done not only for others, and in the industry within music and entertainment alone is impressive. I mean, let's talk about the guy's career. So we helped make off Friday. Let's talk about the lead of pushing, not letting these industry cats do you a certain way. You know what I'm saying? Be about your business. Be about having a voice and speaking about something. Like, this is stuff that early on Cube was about. He didn't sign that contract with NWA. He left arguably the biggest group at that time and
yeah,
create his own masterpiece. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like,
He
always had
created
something
his own
to say.
lane, man.
And I don't like the criticism of Cube, because all Cube has ever done is be for black people, and that's one thing I don't.
Exactly.
I
I don't want to stop you in your tracks right there, but I agree.
yeah,
It infuriates me that anybody would go any other way because Cube from the jump, when he had the platform and the microphone, like you said, he stepped away from what became the world's most dangerous group in a whole nother way and went out there to actually do something with a purpose. Now, granted, whatever happened with him in the Nation of Islam is between them, whatever. But I think that even moving forward, when you talk about Cuba Vision or whatnot, and the people that he put on when it came to film and the vision that he had for that, and being able to do his deal with Priority, I don't think people understand that the deal that Cube did with Priority opened the doors for Master P to do his deal with Priority with No Limit. Like, even the films that No Limit did, like what Cube was doing, he was treading new ground, and he did that, like you said, walking away from this NWA contract, and he did this based on black excellence, but independence, and he was setting the bar. So for anybody to feel like in 2020 that because some people went out there and tried to skew what was going on with Cube's contract for Black America to the point where you feel like I'm gonna sit here and cancel Cube for Joe Biden, you must be out of your mind.
bro,
Like,
the
based
fact that
on what? Like,
the fact that people are questioning his stance in politics when he wanted to sit down and have this agenda or this thing he wanted to present to, what was it, Trump?
bipartisan.
Now everybody starts saying he's MAGA. Bro, like, if this guy is gonna be a president, don't you think we should start using our power to vote to try to get stuff in our favor? Like, y'all just gonna lay down and just let shit go the way it goes? But that's the problem with us. To try to get us to
Again,
move as
like
a unit to get something done is like, that goes deep within music. But to say
Like
that
I
this guy,
said, man, I mean, do you really think Dr. King wanted to sit down with racist Lyndon Johnson? But no, he was the president, so you had to. You know what I mean? If you want to get
yeah, bro,
something done,
like
you got to. It's like,
I can't say Cube going against blackness, bro. Like I can't say that, and that just sounds crazy to hear. Don't matter what era you put it in. Cube going against black people sounds absurd, bro. Like it
I
really
mean,
does, because really he cannot give a fuck about none of this and just live his rich life.
exactly,
He doesn't
exactly.
have to do any
He
of
doesn't
this.
have to do any of
He
this
doesn't.
stuff.
This doesn't make his face clean. This doesn't do anything. He's not doing this for clout. You think Cube needs clout? You think he needs that
Exactly.
hit moment? He's done enough. He could walk away from this and don't have to do nothing for anybody. You know what I'm saying? The
I
fact
mean,
that Cube
like you
feel out
said,
here with a voice says something.
like we said before, even when you look at the deal that he did with Priority coming off of NWA, he was able to write his own check with that. And you better believe that his residuals are crazy when it comes to America's Most, when it comes to Death Certificate. You know, he had great contracts because he had all the leverage. He was coming out of NWA. He was able to write his own check. And we see what Priority was able to the deals that Priority gave Master P. So yeah, Cube has never complained about a deal after the NWA. So I'm sure, like you said, he doesn't have to do this. I ain't counting nobody's pockets. He ain't got
Yeah,
to do this stuff.
he doesn't have to do this. And the fact that like
Right.
the stars he made, the people he put in his, like most of the cast of Friday of those star characters that was in there are not even alive no more. The fact that he put them in movies first, you know what I'm saying, gave them
Lyndon
that
Johnson
platform.
wasn't racist. Wow.
You know,
Somebody actually said Lyndon Johnson wasn't racist. Wow. We're talking about somebody who was in their 60s, in the 60s from Texas. Okay. All right. You got
without even getting it,
it. You got
the
it.
politics, without even getting the politics. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna leave this alone. No matter who's in office, to say, oh, we don't, let's not speak to them and try to get something done for us because of whatever personal you feel about them is literally counterproductive. We can't complain about anything if we're not pushing the envelope to get stuff done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we're just gonna lay down, let
Matter
them
who's
do
there.
whatever without a fight. That sounds stupid as shit. You know what I'm saying? Like
Like
one
I
thing
disagree with Ebro when he was telling Kaepernick not to go to the White House. Like, well, if you want to get something done and you have something, you have an agenda, then I mean you should go. Again, that's what Dr. King would do. Like, it
Yeah, because
is.
people saying like Cube sold out. Where did he sell out, bro? What is a sell out? What
All
did
right,
he do
let's
for us?
rewind this for the people
Yeah,
who want to create their own narratives here. What Cube did was created a bipartisan document for Black America. Whatever party wanted to gravitate to it, sure. You know what I'm saying? The Democrats told him to what they'll look at it after the election. They won. And 4 years later, they never looked at it. They never invited him out to any of the hip hop 50 events or any of that stuff. But that goes without saying. Whatever. The other party, the Republican Party, said, "Hey, we're putting together a plan. Can we take some of this stuff?" That's the extent of it. That's it. Like that is it. That is the extent of it. So from that, people want to sit there and call him MAGA, want to say that he's down with this and that. He never endorsed anybody. He put out a
you know,
bipartisan document. One party actually gravitated to the document. The other one, I won't say didn't. They said they were going to look at it and never did. That's what it is. That's the extent of it all.
and the funny thing, 'cause I see the comment here. It says, think Trump respects what Ice Cube says laughable. No, but they'll respect the collective of people that get in back of it and want to push this for the betterment of us. Strength is
It's
in
about
numbers.
a
So we
deal.
have people. When you're the only one that's saying this amongst the crowd and nobody's there to back you, nobody gives a damn about you. But when there's records and numbers that go out and do it, then that's effective. So I just hate ignorance when it comes down to that. This guy has always been about black folks and on and off of music. This is the same guy that fought against being canceled in the day and age of the early 90s. They try to paint that anti-Semitism sticker on him off his No Vaseline disc. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? He
And
fought
he
against
was
that and explained that in the interview.
exactly. And I would give
Let's
Cube
not act like that didn't
credit, man. Young Cube as a early in his not early teens, in his early 20s, would get on CNN, would get on ABC, get on NBC, and talk to whoever. And I'm, no disrespect to some of our greats, but back then, many of our hip hop voices weren't very articulate when the cameras came on. You know what I mean? Cube was one of the few
Or
that
they
was.
they don't even talk politics. They stay away
Yeah,
from stuff.
Cube was one of the ones that would go in the line of fire and actually speak eloquently about these things and speak to in a way where these older people that were interviewing this 20-something-year-old, he would actually run circles around them, and we got to give this man credit for that. And also, when we talk about, like you said, do you think such and such respect such and such? It's about making a deal. And do you think that the executives at Priority loved Ice Cube or quote unquote respected him? No. They wanted to make a deal, and he worked with them and got what he needed to get out of that deal. They got what they needed to get out of the deal. It's business. It's what it is. And it's nothing personal. And I'm sure that Master P didn't have a quote unquote personal relationship with the people at Priority. They made a deal. They did business. As Biggs would say, man, Biggs from Rockefeller, man, it's like, look, we did business. The business was done. It wasn't personal, wasn't family, nothing like that. We did business. That person got what they got out of it. I got what I got out of it. We're done. That's what it is. I
I
don't know why
mean,
people see politics different than that, but that's
yeah,
just what it is.
without even getting to politics, like keeping it
Yeah,
music,
right.
keeping it music. Where do we see when we're talking about all time greats? Where does Cube rank now?
I mean, to me, Cube's top 10. And I think that my case for Cube being top 10, based on the body of work, based on him pioneering, I think he is the author of gangster rap on a mainstream level. He's the writer of NWA. He has one of the greatest diss records of all time with No Vaseline. I think Death Certificate is one of the greatest hip hop albums ever. America's Most is a 5 mic album in its own right. I think Today is a Good Day is one of the greatest hip hop songs ever made. I think he's a top 10 storytelling MC. I think that what he has done, I think the longevity, you got to give him credit for that too. The only things that hurt Q is the fact that he expanded his palette with acting, and acting may have taken away from the music. But I do feel like whenever Cube shows up, he shows out. Even now, like I don't say now, but even even in the 2000s, if we want to go there, when he showed up with Lil Jon, like Cube
Oh yeah,
shows out. You know what I'm saying? Real nigga roll call is a standout performance. Even
they had
Grand
another
Finale,
one too, didn't they? I
huh?
thought they had another one too outside of that
Yeah,
one.
Grand Finale. He's on that
Yeah,
with Tip, Nas, Bun B's
that's
on
right.
there. Yeah, he shows out. And I think that the only thing the Cube doesn't hit the mark on for people is the lyrical miracle stuff. But I think that to me, it's more powerful when you're able to say more with less words, i.e., Tupac. All seven with the super chat says Cube's been in my top 5 for a long time. Now, for the generation of Kendrick fans, people would say that Kendrick is the greatest West Coast MC of all time. I would argue that Cube is.
Um, over Snoop.
Um, yes. Are you talking about Cube over Snoop or Kendrick over
Yeah,
Snoop?
Cube over Snoop.
I got Cube over Snoop. Yeah, just for content. I think lyrical content kind of goes further when it comes with Cube. I think his message means a little bit more. I think Snoop's incredible. Snoop's the biggest star. Snoop got the catalog. Snoop will probably beat him in a 20-song versus type of matchup. But I just think that when I hear both of them on a record together, i.e. Mount Westmore, even today, Cube's the better rapper. Um, I don't know. Does Snoop have a better song than Good Day?
That could be argued. I mean, Good Day is one of the best hip hop songs of all time.
It
Um,
is.
but I think Snoop has dope stuff. I think
Oh yeah.
he
What's
has
My
GNX.
Name is up there to me.
He has, the joint with him and Dre, that first joint they dropped together.
Oh, you talking about Deep Cover? I think
No, the actual
G
joint
thing.
G thing. Yeah, like
I think What's My Name from Snoop is one of the greatest radio hip hop records ever. And I could put that up against Good Day. I mean, that shit is crazy.
But
That shit-
one thing about this, Mike, and this is where I don't want to take away from Cube's legend. Uh, like I said, you always have to still come with good sounding sonic music to me, and
yeah.
those joints. When I look at Cube's discography, as a solo act compared to Snoop or compared to even other big West Coast acts such as, you know, we have to put Pac in there. People say, "Oh, he's not West Coast." Snoop, if Pac's not West Coast,
Yeah.
neither is Corrupt, neither is Exhibit, neither is all them. They all are not
Yeah.
originally. So, but when we're talking about West Coast acts,
Pac and,
uh,
Pac and
Pac,
Cube is a great conversation for
Pac
sure.
is up there, bro. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
there are some great acts coming out of the West. I mean, I said this on the Weekend Rhyme, man. The West has represented very well in hip hop as far as their guys that they put at the top, and you could put them against any rappers, period, as far as the good music and the good whatever, even lyricism. Because to say that Game can't rap will be a liar. Kendrick can't rap will be a liar. There's people that come from the West is just different.
Game is a heavy.
There's some good there, man. There's some big guys that came out the West, man. But Pac is number one out the West, bro.
Game is a heavyweight. Just ask Eminem.
Yeah, game
Ask
game is
him.
up.
He don't want it with Game. No.
Oh, that diss was mid, but that's another
But
thing.
no. I mean, mid or what? I
That
think
diss,
it was a bait. I think that no. You know what? I think that the Black Slim Shady is a great record because you
that
know
shit.
what? What's mid about it is the fact that he took on Eminem's style and the fact that he proved that if you rap like this guy, nobody's gonna really like it anyway. I think when he came with that last verse, though, I mean, it
That
is what it
wasn't
is.
300 bars and running. It
Well, I
wasn't.
think he was setting Eminem up for that. I think that record was one of those records to get a response, and then he was going to go crazy. But see, he wasn't going to respond to him
And
because he
see,
knows.
and here's another reason why I have to throw Pac up there, because this is good that we ask this question. This becomes conversation because these are guys that all existed in the same space
Mhm.
together. It's not like the eras were different too much off. Ice Cube was out the same time as Snoop, the same time as Pac, and Pac was the guy.
Well, no,
You know,
no, 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 no. Let's rewind. In the beginning, when Cube was at his height and Pac was out, Cube was the guy. Cube kind of
yeah, but
started
this
doing
is not Death
movies
Row
and
Pac either.
everything else.
Yeah, that's
No,
not
no,
Death Row Pac.
Cube started doing movies and everything else. It kind of laid off the music a little bit. Pac elevated, and not saying that had anything to do with Pac's elevation, but I feel like 90, 91, and it could even be said, yeah, I would say 92 as well. Cube is definitely 91. Cube's the best rapper in the game. Like 90, 91, America's Most, Death Certificate. Cube's the best solo rapper in the game.
Oh,
And
Death Certificate was sick. Oh,
yeah, Death Certificate's crazy. Mad Max in
yeah.
the super chat says Snoop over Cube. Shout out to Mad Max in the building. What did you think about Kendrick's album, Mad Max? Mad Max is a Kendrick hater. So you ain't got Kendrick over Snoop, Mad Max? Let me ask
I
you
mean,
this, man.
there's
You're
some
a big Kendrick fan. Kendrick top 10. Let's start there.
top 10 out of what?
All time.
Ooh, that's hard, man. That's
We're
something
just
I
gonna
don't
have a
even
heavy conversation about it.
right here. Top 10.
All time. He's dominating his era. Right?
I don't like to put a lot of these. Oh, you're talking about do I put Kendrick in top 10 all time?
Yeah.
No, I can't put nobody from this era in top 10 in my top 10.
Why?
They got to keep going.
Okay.
Because when I'm putting them in top 10, I'm putting you against Pac. I'm putting you against Jay. I'm putting you up against Nas. I'm putting you against Snoop. I'm putting you against like these guys that don't matter how the what's the name the order of that changes. They're still not leaving.
They haven't been
You know what I'm
surpassed.
saying? I don't think they've been around where I could put them in that top 10. Because I can name a top 10 without even putting them in there. Anybody that's current.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. So if we talk about catalog, album for album, skill for skill, level of popularity, I mean, let's look at some of the all-time greats 5-album run, and let's compare them to Kendrick in that way. Like, how does this shake out? Because to be honest, man, most of the greats after their 4th or 5th album, they kind of started to, descend a little bit. Whether we want to admit that or not. But when we start looking at, where things ascend, and we start looking at Kendrick's catalog matched up with others, where does he really lie?
Where will he fall on? You put him in your top 10?
I think Rakim's better than Kendrick. Well, let me just say it like this.
What
Let
is
me
your
pull up
top
a
10?
top. Being objective here, I think Nas is the greatest MC of all time. Being objective, I would put Jay at number 2. This is where it gets murky because I do think that Rakim is like on some Wilt Chamberlain shit. He was so far advanced than everybody, and always has been. And he changed the way everybody rhymed. Like, he came in the game dope as fuck, on a whole nother level of dope. So he's 3 to me for that. You could knock him for longevity points, I guess. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a realistic assertion, but to hit the ground floor when nothing before you sounded anywhere near you the way he did, I give him 3 for that. I had to explain that. I think Pac might be 4. He has longevity, and he has a lot of kids out here, and his image in music seems to grow legs, by the day. It never dies. And he recorded a whole lot of stuff too, so we can't just say he had limited material. He still got more material than people that, are still out here living and breathing. 5. Huh. I know I'm gonna miss some people because I'm going off the top right now.
Because my top 10 is not just off lyrical ability. Mine is
Right.
careers.
Catalog is, I don't know, man. I think 5, man. It could be KRS. Huh. I think KRS is in there. I think Cube is in there. I think that this is no order. I think LL has to be in there. I think Scarface has to be in there. And
We got to share our top 10s, man. Because
yeah,
it's
yeah,
hard
yeah,
to
yeah. I
really
really
think
want
about
to
it.
be calculated in this. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
I like Common a lot, and I think that Common has an incredible catalog. I think that album for album, his catalog's tough to beat. His longevity's tough to beat. But see, Common's one of those guys that if I put him up against somebody like a Biggie, am I sure he's dope? And I know he has the longevity and all of that, but even with Biggie's short catalog, could Biggie's short catalog beat Common's long catalog?
Yeah.
And on the mic, I know who I think is just,
Big
dope with
can be. And
MC. Like, Big's crazy with it. Now,
big.
see, Big's short life is he's such an X factor in that way. A young person would tell you, like, yo, you got to put Kendrick over Big. And I wouldn't be opposed to that because Kendrick has, overly dedicated, Section 80. He has Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly. He has Damn, Mr. Morale, this album. Where Big has Ready to Die in Life After Death. All 7 with the super chat says Cool G Rap is the GOAT. He don't miss. Fuck with Cool G Rap heavy, man. It's a lot of greats, man. A lot of greats. I personally like Biggie's music more. And I think I like Biggie more as an MC. But on paper, if somebody said Kendrick has to be over Biggie, I guess it's hard to refute that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Like,
I
yeah,
don't
that's
have
I don't put
Kendrick
none
in
of
my top 10, but I could see how someone would.
I don't put none of these new guys of anything in my era. I don't put them in my top 10 yet. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? They just I can't do that. Like my top 10, like I said, my top 4 or 5 never changes. The order may change depending on what day I'm listening to, but it's always gonna be Jay, it's always gonna be Pac, it's always gonna be Nas, it's always gonna be Biggie. Those are what, 4? Those 4 right
My
there, right?
problem with Biggie is the limited catalog, but I do think, and I've said this before, nobody in hip hop did more with less of a catalog. And maybe nobody in music other than Jimi Hendrix or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Then we're
so
not gonna
Biggie
take
is
away from stuff Big was
special.
penning. Like
Oh yeah,
he
right.
gave us Junior Mafia. He gave us like his body of work and what he covered in that short time of his lifespan is
Yeah,
amazing. You know what I'm
it is
saying? Big
amazing.
Wayne.
Hardcore, not Hell Up in Harlem, but No Way Out from Puffy. You know,
So like big is there. So what I said, this is no particular order because like I said, it changes sometimes depending on who I listen to that day. But like I said, it's gonna be Jay, it's gonna be Pac, it's gonna be Nas, it's gonna be Biggie, and it's this is when we start going into stuff that are a little bit more current for me. Like I said, my top 10 is not like everybody else's because my era where I grew up in music is different from, you know, um from others when what impacted them and what meant to them. So I gotta put Snoop in my number 5. You know
I
what
ain't
I'm
mad
saying?
at that.
Snoop's got to go in my number 5 just because what he did for like when I was growing up. Like I listened to Snoop. You know, like Snoop got played. My uncle introduced me to some albums. I'm riding in the car with him. I'm listening to Snoop. I'm listening to Pac. I'm listening to these records. So that's my 5 right there. Snoop gets onto that list. Now, when we start talking about like sits and beyond, this is all about the story of my life as far as where I am and who's impacted and who was the people that came with it. And so I would have to put Wayne in that number 6 spot. Wayne impact for me and my generation is there. People could argue about lyricism, all that, all y'all want. Wayne is my number 6. You know what I'm saying? Number 7, I gotta put T.I. in my number 7. I think Tip. He has the bodies of work. He could spit. He has the impact. Um, that guy when he was hot, he was hot. Nobody was touching him.
Yeah, man.
Um, Number 8, like I said, and this is going off my 10. So this is what impacted me and how I live my life and what was the impact and stories of my life. Um, Number 8.
Mall 7 with the super chat says Scarface is easily top 5. Well, go ahead.
Yeah. Number 8.
It's
When I'm
difficult,
thinking,
right?
yeah, it's my last 3 because my last 3 always like
You
gets
know,
tough.
I,
Where it
I
gets
want to
tough.
stop at this Ti thing because a lot. I've never seen. I think Ti is the MC who whose star has faded more than anybody else's that I've seen unnecessarily. Like I don't understand how people act like they forgot how dope Ti is. Like they act like he's not who he is and he didn't do what he did. And really,
Yeah,
if you listen to him now, continues to do what he does. Like where does this come from? And no disrespect to Ludacris, I like Ludacris, man. Ludacris has been a huge inspiration to me, but between the two, man, it ain't even a question who's the better MC. Like Ti is the
yeah.
best MC.
And these are is
I
this
could
not even
throw
just MC, these are artists that like soundtracks of my life. And like I said, like, you know,
got the best solo MC to come out of Atlanta. That's just the truth. It
yeah,
is what it is.
like I don't get the Ti slander at all as far as his
I don't
body of work,
understand.
what he did. I don't understand that. Um So what was that? What was out like?
You
Okay,
on
8. I
because
would
you
have to
got
put
Ti
Kanye.
7,
I would have to put Kanye in that list.
of course.
Kanye has to be put on that list. People got question, say whatever about Ghost Riders, whatever. Kanye is one of the most important. He's one of the most important artists of this generation, and one of the most important artists that pushed the envelope to open up a different wave and change in hip hop. The way people approach music, the production. Um, Kanye deserves to be in there. His album run is amazing. Because we could, it can be argued that people wouldn't probably put 808s and Heartbreak on there, but if you look at what the sound of music after that, he was before his time with 808s
It
and Heartbreak.
changed things. Yeah, it
You
changed
know,
things.
we're really talking about um college dropout, right? Late registration, right? Graduation. Then what he did, 808s and Heartbreak,
And then
My
he
Beautiful
did
Dark
the
Twisted
monster.
Fantasy.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
that's yeah.
saying? And then even Life of Pablo was a good album. Yeezus wasn't a bad album. Sonically, I did not like
People
Yeezus at all.
love Yeezus.
But
I'm
Yeezus
not
Kanye,
into Yeezus
like,
like that.
come on, man. This album run as Kanye as an artist is like it's crazy, bro. It's like, and you guys got to understand, I'm a '90s kid, but my influence on what I picked up listening to is gonna be totally different from anybody else's. So, like I said, you can't argue me or tell me what grew up in my life. What I came up of is a certain way, nigga. I grew up on this, nigga. Like, this is my life, fam. I was outside, so these
You know,
are
Ghostface is
these
one of
are
my
soundtracks
favorite
of my life
MCs.
growing up.
Ghostface is one of my favorite MCs, but if I'm being objective, I'm trying to, put together a list that, is objective. If we go to my personal
These are my
favorites,
favorite artists.
yeah, Ghostface is one of my 3 favorite rappers. Like,
Mhm.
love Ghost.
So yeah, I gotta throw Kanye on that list. Uh, I wouldn't be good without saying this because I probably know all his albums. Um, um, That's probably his first 4 or 5 albums. I know probably all the words, and that's Ludacris. I
Mm.
can't take away Ludacris' contribution to hip hop. His album runs were amazing. The music may not age well to people now because how animated it is, but Luda's run is crazy.
I would like to speak to Luda's run because on this show, people really come down on us when we don't, I don't want to say don't speak highly of Luda or we don't mention Luda. And I think that you did say something to the fact that, his music didn't age well. He made music for the time per se. But
Well,
again, he
it's
has a video
animated.
background. I mean, he's a dope MC. I mean,
He's a dope MC. We can't take away from him. Like I said, people.
he was the Red Man of the 2000s that made, I guess, more
Yeah,
palatable hit records than Redman, whereas Redman made more palatable, I don't want to say underground records, but hip hop type of records. I mean, a lot of people compare him to like a Busta Rhymes too. I think Luda was dope. Luda is kind of like Busta in that sense, but I will give Luda this over Busta. I think he had a lot more legitimate solo hits than being kind of like the guy who just flashed on
he
features.
had
It
better
was
albums. He had the albums. We can't act like Back for the First
ELE
Time
is
was good.
crazy.
Word of Mouth wasn't good. I mean, we can't say that. Chicken and Beer was good. We can't. You know, Red Light District. He had what was the one after Red Light District?
You're talking the one that had the hip hop Red Light District, and come on, help us in the chat. Red Light District is coming to my mind. It'll come to me in a second. I
He
think
had
we
one
got
that won the Grammy. I forgot what it was, but yeah, Ludacris album run, even Theater of the Mind. Like, we're talking about the line of albums, and just because it's my top 10, it
what's the
doesn't mean I don't know
classic
my history of
Ludacris
hip
album.
hop, nigga. This is what I grew up on. Nigga sound
Wait a minute,
crazy.
you said this about Drake earlier. Oh, you said this about Drake earlier. What is
Mhm.
Ludacris's classic album?
For me, uh, it's a toss up because I really like Word of Mouth. But Chicken and Beer was really good.
Chicken and Beer is his best album.
Chicken and
Release
Beer was
Therapy is the
really
one we're
good.
talking about. Yeah, Release Therapy. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Um,
really.
Chicken and Beer is his best album.
Yes. And then, all right, so my number 10.
But even if we're saying Chicken and Beer is his best album, and not to
Yeah.
interrupt you, I think trap music is better. I think King is better. I think Urban Legend is better. I would reserve my opinions on Paper Trail. I know a lot of people probably think Paper Trail is better, but I'll give Luda the Chicken and Beer over Paper Trail.
I actually think Paper Trail is one of T.I.'s best albums.
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, I think that's one of his best albums. But and then my number 10, I always take them out, but I would just say for me, I have to put Missy in my number 10. And the
Really,
reason, but yeah,
I
it's
love
not
it.
even it's not due to lyrical ability. I just think what she accomplished as a female rapper that didn't or couldn't even sell sets as her appeal, and being able to be creative and push that envelope and make the hit music. I just wish she had more albums. Um, because it's like once Missy figured out that she could do that dance music, it just like that became her thing after Work It. It just every song started to sound like that after that. You know, that Lose Control with Fat Man Scoop. It's like that even when she drops a new song like that now, it's kind of like on that dance wave. But like for me, growing up in that sound, uh just Missy's an overall talented individual from the rapping ability of her being clever with the way she approaches music to her being able to sing, her writing ability, because she's penned a lot of R&B records, and she's produced on a lot of those as well as her vocal backgrounds being on there. And I think people like Missy and people like DeBrat does not get enough credit for not only being female MCs but pushing the envelope as far as music. Period. And I think was Missy just nominated for like song or got into the songwriters Hall of Fame or something recently?
Yes, he did. Yeah,
Like,
well deserved.
yeah, you know, it takes skill to make a hit record, and she knew it. Her in conjunction with working with Tim, it was amazing. Missy's amazing. You
She
know,
knows she knew where to put, certain phrases and saying catchphrases everywhere on records. Mad Max to the super chat says, yes, Snoop over Cube, Mike. That's Snoop. Is the sound that the West is still using. Cube became outdated. Really love him. But when when a he said, but when a nip is the 2010s doing G Funk, basically that's Snoop. Snoop's impact is crazy. I mean, the thing about Missy, man, I loved Missy. I was a huge fan of the Super Friends. We used to we couldn't wait for a Missy album because we wanted to see what her and Timberland were gonna come up with this time. You know what I mean? It was like the combination next to Dr. Dre and Snoop. I got Missy and Timberland because you never knew what those guys were going to come up with, but you knew it was going to be something you never heard before. And Missy was that hybrid of a singer, rapper, and she didn't take herself too serious. And it was like the raps were like kind of on some Biz Markie, Old Dirty, but it was cool. It was like it was fun. It was fly, and I love Missy. Missy is one
yeah,
of my favorites from that era because she kept you guessing, and we always wanted to see who was going to appear on her albums. And people got on her albums, and they did their thing. Like that was Missy's albums were a platform to get on and go, spit some shit on.
yeah. And this is my top 10 favorite hip hop artists. You know, if I want to get into MCs, my favorite MCs are not my favorite rappers. You know, I'm like saying they won't go on my top 10 as favorite rappers of all time because I think best MCs, that's a whole different list. I can get into that bag of what that is, but my top 10 favorite artists and their contributions to hip hop, this is my list, bro. Like all 10 of these people have implemented a wave or their own individual sound and has contributed in music to a point that I don't see anybody else doing. You can't replicate any of these 10 artists that I name. You'll never get another one.
Matt Max with the super chat says, laughing my ass off. This Luda music didn't age well is a myth. The real issue is you don't respect the comedic MCs like that because Luda got a 25 pack that will smoke any backpack artist from the 2010s besides one.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that people act like that's all Luda's bag is the animated shit, because behind all that animated shit, he still had hits.
He
You
had
know, he had
hits. He was a
hits.
hit maker.
He's a
But
hit maker. He knows how to. Luda has mastered the ability to know how to make a great song.
I don't know,
Just
straight
overall, just a good
a
song.
great hit song. I mean, again, him coming from radio and him understanding that as an I mean, I think he's one of the greatest radio personalities I've ever heard, just growing up listening to him here in Atlanta. But him understanding what made people move. I'm sure he was out there in the clubs as a radio disc jockey in the radio station, understanding how to make a hit record, and he executed on that. And I mean, for people to understand the fact that What's Your Fantasy was an independent record. Like, this was a independent single. This wasn't something that he signed to Def Jam and went and recorded. This man made a hit record independently, got signed, they jumped on it, and didn't change anything about the record. They didn't have to add anybody. They didn't have to enhance it. He knocked it out the park, like, first swing. That doesn't happen. Like, that's real
And
talent.
and Luda could really rap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he could really get busy when he wants to. And Luda could spit over anything. I never forget Method Man and Redman had this show. It was short lived. It was on MTV. It was like a
It's like
prank.
one show,
Yeah, it was a prank
one
show. And
episode.
they had the thing where they did the messed up beat with the frog sounds or whatever. And Luda was like, they was like, put him in there, and he really was about to create a song over this,
Fine.
whatever. It wasn't even a real beat. Like Luda is an artist, bro. Like, um,
I think his
he
freestyle
has
ability really garnered him a lot of respect. I think the fact that he got in the Rap City booth during the time of the basement, meant so much to hip hop, and he was the guy in the basement. I think that added a lot to his fandom at that time. Mad Max also says number one spot comes on the spot. We grooving, move, bitch. We grooving. Area codes, etc. Y'all not finna play with Luda. I would defend
number one
myself
spot
for
actually
life.
wasn't one of my number one spot wasn't. I respect the respect on Luda. Number one spot wasn't actually one of my favorite Luda joints, but he's right. Some of those Luda songs, "Move, Bitch," like "Pimping All Over the World," "Area Codes." I mean, "What's Your Fantasy," "Roll Out." Like,
Southern
he
hospitality
has
is the
he has
one for me.
hits. "One More Drink" with T-Pain. He got the joint that sampled off Tony the Whatever You Want joint.
He's talking about Splash Waterfalls.
Flash Waterfalls. He has joints, bro. These are he has hit records, man. Like,
Southern
Luda,
hospitality is the one to me, personally.
yeah, Southern Hospitality. Like, Luda is, he's that guy you could play Luda anywhere. He translates anywhere.
I
You
want to
know,
be correct here, poets and rhymers. I got Busta Rhymes over Luda. I mean, I just do, and
I don't think Busta has the albums.
I think ELE is better than any Luda album, in my opinion. The Coming too is, yeah. I
And
mean,
I ain't gonna
ELE.
lie, because I used to get Busta's albums. I used to get Busta's albums just off his singles, and honestly, a lot of those you can't listen to from beginning to end, bro.
I listen to ELE from beginning to end, but that's just me. The niggas rhyming crazy on ELE. Well, that's the one with
Because we
Janet
know
Jackson.
Busta can get busy. We
Oh
know
yeah.
he can get busy, but his albums just didn't do it for me.
Now I will
You know,
say this: I think that Luda and Busta have a similar problem where they don't have a hands down hip hop classic in their era that stands over, you know, other albums. I think that Busta's best albums came out in very heavy years. I mean, The Coming is 96. There's a lot of stuff to contend with in 96. I think that his best chance of having the best, album of the year in hip hop might have been 97 with Disaster Strikes, but that's life after death year. You know what I mean? But 98 is when he made his best album, but 98 is volume two of Kumina. It's Dark and Hell is Hot, and it's like Capital Punishment, and it's like it's hard to go against those.
I
And
I,
so,
I
yeah,
just
he
don't
never
think
really had
Busta
a
has
time
it
where
like
he
Luda.
was the guy.
Because, like, I think, like, he just doesn't have it. He just doesn't have it like Luda, man. He doesn't have that discography of hits like Luda. Like, he's played a good role of being a contributor and being in his bag with really being able to rap. And he has some joints, but it's like even when we're talking about hits, he doesn't even have as many
You
hits as
you
Luda.
think that you think Luda would beat Busta in a versus?
Yes, hands down.
No, I see. We still haven't set up our matchup, and we still got to do the
Yeah,
Jay and Nas thing. I would love to take Busta's catalog against Luda's catalog. Now, can I
yeah.
use features, or can I just got to use solo songs?
Oh yeah, because Luda has those too.
Luda got features.
Luda has those
Yeah,
too. So
I'll
yeah,
take Busta
whatever.
on this
I
one all
I
day.
know I know Luda's music from like yeah, so I could really get in the
So
bag on Luda because Luda has those joints. Luda, we're talking about a guy that had like 3 or 4 singles off each album for real.
he had some hits, but
You know
I'm
what I'm
going with
saying? Like
Busta's catalog. Mall 7 with the super chat says Growing Pains is Luda's best records.
that
Best
was
record.
yeah, the joint with Jagged Edge and Shauna and Lil Fate. Yeah, yeah,
You
that
got 20 Luda records that you comfortable playing like that?
hell yeah. Hell yeah. This
Oh
is the same
man.
guy with Drake went on
See,
stage
you
and
making me second guess my Buster picks.
Drake
Like, is
even
this
had to get on stage and say, "Hey man, I ain't Luda had them hits. You know, he had them. Luda was that guy, bro.
what do you guys think in the chat? Let me put this on in the chat. I'm
Yeah,
gonna put a poll
Luda. Come
out
on,
there.
man.
Who
Luda.
who wins the matchup? Let's see. Let's see. Luda or Buster. I want to see what people have to say, man. Who wins the matchup? Luda or Buster? We put the poll out there, man. I don't know, man. I think y'all
Hell
sleeping.
yeah.
Hmm.
Luda.
I feel like it's unfair to play stuff like the flavor in your ear shit. Like that's unfair, isn't it?
He didn't even have the best verse on that song, though.
I mean, Biggie's on there.
Yeah.
Leroy Green with the super chat says, "When disaster strikes, ELE, anarchy, Genesis is insane. 5 pieces of albums back to back. Like, you know what? Busta doesn't get a lot of credit for the fact that he came out with The Coming in '96, When Disaster Strikes in '97, ELE in '98. What was it? Anarchy in '99, Genesis in 2000. Like he was dropping every year too. It wasn't just Jay, but
Busta has some hits, but let's put all right. So we know Busta's hits. We know that he has the joint with Janet Jackson. He has Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See. He has Give Me Some More. He has what was the other joint? He had another Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See. Did I say that?
yeah,
He
you
had
already
that.
said
You know what I'm
that.
saying?
Woolhouse got you all in check. I
That's
got
not
that
even my
head
favorite Busta song though.
break your neck. You know what? The Jean A
Break
record
That Neck
is
was later on.
party
That was
is very the Jean A song is very underrated. It's a party, dope record.
I'm telling you, dog. Like when you really have to go back and look in the hits, his hits is not. He has them because we see when he performs, when he do these things, it's like a medley of his hits with him and Spliff. So he takes you down the history lesson with someone as far as features and stuff like that. But if Luda goes
Fired up
down
is crazy.
and Luda has, I'm telling you, Luda has them ones. And if I need to give people a history lesson on Luda, and as far as his
Oh,
hits,
I'm with
do
it.
that.
Oh,
I could
abandoned
definitely.
ship is my shit. I don't think they know abandoned ship like that, y'all. Lord with the super chat says Luda Saturday. Um, yeah, Touch It was cool. I mean, I don't know. I might use something like that. I might not. But I want to stay away from features per se because I don't want to play into that narrative that is Busta's strongest works. I mean, I don't want to really have to go scenario. Pastor Kavasi, that's good.
Oh, you like the Diddy record, eh?
Yeah, man, Diddy did some great work out here, man. Well, all right, before we get out of
I'm
here,
just clowning.
any Diddy updates, any Diddy news?
Um, Nothing that I seen besides him kind of winning this stuff with the evidence that they took from his cell being thrown out. You know, they can't use that. They took pictures of legal documents. That's client lawyer privileges. You can't do that. So they're saying all that evidence, anything they obtain in that raid of his cell, isn't admissible. You can't use it.
Okay.
Um, but the interesting thing about that is it's inadmissible, but they still kind of have in the back of their mind of a road to try to travel down. So you may not be able to use those notes, but it can open up more things that you may want to discover if it's even there. Because from what I've been hearing is whatever uh witness they have is no witness outside of the Cassie stuff. They don't have anything. That's what's being said.
Mm.
So that's where it gets interesting. And then the main reason why they were rejecting his bail was due to the Cassie stuff and them saying him harassing witnesses when they're really saying that he hasn't really violated anything like how they said it. So when you throw that evidence out and everything you was using, you don't really have anything to really revoke this man's bond. So we'll see how the judge plays it on the next hearing if he gets his bond or not. Because really, when you look at the grounds of everything and the facts of the matter, I don't know what is standing there for him not to get granted bond. Like
Imagine if Diddy gets bond and get what? Imagine when Diddy gets out here back in these streets and all these people who talk this and that. Like, I mean, obviously he's not going to act on it, but imagine the interviews and all that stuff that are going to be set up, and it's going to be pandemonium when Diddy walks out of there. Like, if he walks out of there, either on bond or even if he gets somewhat exonerated from this. I mean, I think people already kind of have in their mind that he's not getting out. You know what I mean? And if that happens, I mean, does he do a Breakfast Club interview? Does he, you know what I mean?
no,
Or does he just
it
chill?
wouldn't be smart. Just
I'm
lay
talking
low.
about after the case is over. Let's just say hypothetically,
I
because
wouldn't even
based on,
want to. I would
yeah,
create my own narrative, sit down with whoever I want to, because in this whole time, nobody has been objective about Diddy.
I agree
Nobody.
with that. I
Everybody
agree.
has had a joke. Everybody has had something that is. I wouldn't sit down with none of them. I'm taking notes. You
As they
know,
say, man, when you come for the king, you better not miss.
yeah.
And
So,
yeah,
from this point on, it's just like I don't know. I don't know if they really even have as strong as a case that they said. I think they were relying on somebody, them having somebody of real merit come through and kind of leech on to the Diddy case. After that Lil Rod stuff. I don't think criminally they probably do have anything. What I've been seeing with some of these cases, especially with seeing with Young Thug, it's kind of seemed like they've been having a hard on for rappers and they really can't nail one, except the obvious niggas that's caught red-handed doing stuff, and that's not even on the FBI level. So it's like I don't know how this Diddy stuff is gonna go. They tried to assassinate the character with throwing that video out there because that video is egregious. And
videos
that's what really shifted things because everything
it
else was
is.
just like nobody's paying attention to nothing. Allegations, whatever things have been thrown about.
Yeah.
Diddy has been getting clowned for this same shit for over a decade.
Now, if you want to lock him
Um,
up for that, lock him up for that. You know what I'm
but
saying?
the
But
but the Cassie stuff is where oh shit, you seeing this. You can't deny what you're seeing. But
right,
that was thrown out there intentionally, in my opinion, to dirty his image, to dirty like whatever. Because I think one thing we could all agree on is a man putting his hands on a woman is unacceptable.
that shit was
So
terrible, man.
that from that point on, it's been like this hurts the character. Which now, when you see that video, especially after him denying certain
Exactly,
things, now it makes the people look at it like, well, the rest of the stuff must be true. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying?
Lord
The
Super
rest
Chat says, "Buster, turn me up some." I like turn me up some. Mad Max says, "People forget the early 2000s. Luda was big three." What? I don't know about that, but
uh,
um, I
mm,
mean, I will say this: when we talk about record sales, Luda was outselling Jay-Z in the 2000s, and that's just true.
man, I don't know why people act like Luda doesn't have a discography of dope albums. That's crazy. Like until he went into music, his albums was on point all the way until Theater of the Mind. Theater of the Mind was a dope album. After that, I don't accept anything after that. But all albums up to Theater of the Mind is solid albums.
What was I gonna say?
But yeah,
Yeah, when it comes to the Diddy thing, I saw on TMZ. I actually saw that they did that. The downfall of Diddy. It got like a part 3 or whatever, and it just felt
I watch
like
it.
a lot of the stuff that was being said on there was a bit. I don't. It was a bit of a reach. It kind of got to the point where it's like I don't know if when we get into the courtroom, if any of this stuff is gonna stick or is gonna work. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see them. I will say this: the type of lawyers or the level of lawyers that somebody like Diddy can, solicit the services of, I think can get him out of this
Yeah,
based
but
on
on
what
top of
I'm seeing.
yeah, it's gonna need good lawyer work. But on top of that, like we could say like Diddy's not squeaky clean. I don't believe Diddy is squeaky clean. I really
No,
don't.
of
That's my
course not.
but um what has he criminally done that you can get him for now? You can even get him for the Cassie stuff because the statute of limitations are. But what the way that they're trying to finesse it is allegedly that you're still going off this Cassie stuff as a momentum for you guys to get him for what you're gonna get him for. Which where's the facts behind all these things that you say he did, the sex trafficking, all this stuff? Where's the facts behind all of this to back up your claims, bro? At the end of the day, it's not about um who's innocent or who's guilty. It's about what you can prove.
Exactly.
There's innocent people that are guilty as shit, but it's about what you could prove, man. We're
Yeah.
not saying he's squeaky clean, and right now, I don't think that they have enough to really get him like how it's said to be. I mean, they're saying stuff like him wishing having his kids wish happy birthday to him is to make him look his image clean for the jurors or whatever. But not you putting out this video before y'all even went to go charge and all that stuff was to make him look bad in front. You know what I'm saying? Like your same tactics. Like I never thought kids wishing happy birthday to the father was like, it's
Even,
like,
even if
you
you,
know,
even if it was though, even if it was, that's a hard sell and a hard thing to prove.
yeah, man. It's like
Straight up.
Like
Even
I
if
don't
he
know.
did orchestrate that, you can't prove that.
Yeah, so it's like I feel like there's a lot of stuff they thrown out there, and I don't know if they have enough to really prove the allegations. But like I said, man, I think the hip hop police is real, and I think they kind of had their eye on Diddy for a long time, and I don't know how it's gonna play out because at the end of the day, um, they know better than I do. I'm not a part of the FBI, so but they always say if the FBI comes for you, they have something on you for real. And right now, I'm kind of questioning the credibility of that stereotype, because I've seen how this is looking and is looking real meek for them as far as from a defense standpoint. So who knows, but he's definitely going to take a hit to the pockets because just fighting this and other
Right.
civil suits and all this, man, is definitely going to hit his pockets. But that's
And it's
how
going to
it
be
goes.
difficult to do. It's going to be difficult to do business after all of this is over as well. So,
That yeah.
Mad Max in the super chat says, "Love Luda, prefer Luda." I don't know if he beats Buster. All right, and on that note, go ahead and get
Oh,
up
there's some
out of
breaking
here.
news. There's some
Oh,
more
we got
breaking news.
what we
Yeah,
got.
on this break, they say UMG, which distributes Drake's music, has responded. Um, this is a short blurb out of it. It says no amount of contrived or absurd legal arguments in its pre-action submission can mask the fact that fans choose the music they want to hear.
Of course.
All right,
Blah
so
blah
look, yeah, we're gonna have to see, man. Like I said, I still think Drake's a clown for that. But
I believe there are bots out there, but again, like you said, and this is, I think, the biggest point here. Like, okay, well, what about payola? You know what I'm saying? Like, so what? There's always been, steroids in the industry when it comes to mainstream acts, and so, like you said, I'm sure Drake has been the beneficiary of that at some point in his career. You can't call foul when it's not on your team now. So,
yeah, man, that's so unhip hop, bro, and it's just such a
all
and
right,
I just
man.
like I can't support that, man. But we'll see how that even plays out. Because, like I said, he's making himself real unlikable, very easy. Every move
Yeah,
he's made,
man, he got to get in the lab, man. Like, yeah, we can't
yeah,
sit there and cry about losses when you lose. You just got to pick yourself up and go out there and do some things to win, as
even
opposed
even
to
attempts
crying
at
to the referees.
yeah, even his attempts at stuff, like the music he put out didn't do anything. You hop on a stream with this Canadian streamer and then you announce that you're gonna do a concert in Australia or whatever on the same day that the Super Bowl. Well, sorry to tell you, bro. People gonna tune into the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like your performance in Australia is not gonna overweigh his performance at the Super Bowl, man. There's
And if it does somehow, then we got to think about bots on that end. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, you know, you could say bots or whatever on the internet, but I know when I went to the streets, I know what I heard. When Not Like Us came out, I was in Seattle during that time. No, take that back. I was in Vegas. I was in Vegas at the time, and I heard that record in the streets. You know what I'm saying? I heard clubs that you walking by on the strip playing Not Like Us. Like I remember, I was on that side when hearing that. So bots alone, we can't change the fact that this record was played everywhere. And to this day, like when I go out, they're still listening to that record. So, like I said, you can't be mad at the system that helped you because it didn't benefit you, and you feel like Universal chose who they want. And bro, just I don't know. This is sucker shit, man.
Universal is his system. You know what I'm saying? Like Universal is his system. That's
To
who
think that
Cash
Drake
Money, Young
to
Money,
think that
and
Drake didn't benefit from this is crazy. Like that it
bro,
never worked in his favor is crazy.
they were the first label to sign him. I remember when I saw his first single. He was on 106 in Park, featuring Trey Songz. What was it? Something Girl, Digital Girl, or whatever that song was called. That was through Universal. Like
I mean, Cash
he has
Money
a
is
long-standing
through
Universal.
Universal historically, yeah.
No, but yeah, even before he was with
Oh
Young
yeah.
Money, and that's why when my homeboy used to be like, "Oh, there's a bidding war for Drake or whatever," I'm like, "He signed to Universal," you know what I mean? And then they did the Game Interscope G Unit thing with him. They threw him under Young Money. He was still Universal, you know what I mean? So he has a long-standing relationship with Universal, like you said. To think that he never benefited from some of these things the Universal has done, even on his behalf, is to be, very naive. He's probably calling them the carpet because he knows how they operate when they helped him out. Replacement Girl, that's the name of the song. Thank you.
This is hip hop's Karen, man. This is what we got right now. This is hip hop Karen. Yeah, that 1,000 gigs, whatever you threw out, that didn't work. You tried to do No Face, we tried to diss him. You do the OVO picture and all of them. Your man Top Five is out talking crazy, whatever. None of this stuff is working in your favor. The things that you've done, the music you've made has been questionable after this. The way that you with the duck lips and eyeliner every other week with the crazy outfits on IG hasn't been working for you. The subliminals haven't been working for you, bro. It's just like at the end of the day, this is beef between you and the chief or whatever at UMG, and then you didn't like that Kendrick benefit and won off this. So now you're ready to go take down the same system that you benefit off of that helped you in your whole career. This is sucker shit. This is a version of a snitch. And even if they find whatever to be true, you playing with fire, bro. And it just makes you look like a sore loser and a hater and a snitch. I don't see, even if you come out on top of this, how people are gonna be like caping for you and saying that this is cool, because I thought in hip hop we didn't respect snitches.
All right, well, we can go out on that note, man. We got to definitely take out your Drake rant and have it as a solo shot, so the rest of the world can actually go back to that, because you were on fire earlier and you ended as great as you started. Yeah, hit like and subscribe, everybody, man. It was a pleasure, getting on here
Sure.
again. We had a lot to talk about. And shit, man, I'll see you next week or even, possibly sooner. And if I don't see you before then, man, happy Thanksgiving and all of those things.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
Yes, sir.